Chapter 512. Martial King Realm Level 7-1 had to know that if he hadn't opened Yi Fei's bet, the banker would have won the bet this time. However, he couldn't resist the temptation and accepted a mysterious woman's bet of 10 million spirit crystals. He even lost his mind and opened the odds of 1 to 100. Now that Yi Fei won, the mysterious girl's 10 million spiritual crystals instantly became 1 billion spiritual crystals. Of course, the casino owner could afford to lose 1 billion spiritual crystals. What really made the casino owner vomit blood was that the little girl who bet on Yi Fei's victory was the second person who bet on him. She was truly a ruthless demon. With a wave of her hand, she bet 50 million spiritual crystals. According to the current payout, that was a total of 5 billion spiritual crystals. That amount of spiritual crystals had obviously exceeded the casino's tolerance limit. The employees of the casino who received the news were all dumbfounded. Someone immediately suggested, "Boss, why don't we take the spiritual crystals and escape from Beiyang country?" Escape? If we could escape, why would I still be here vomiting blood? It was my mistake. I didn't expect that the little girl who ate the spiritual melon was actually the young miss of the Merchant Alliance. I've lost everything this time, the casino owner said with a long face. Shang Luo's smug laughter immediately rang out in the void. At least you know your place. You know that if I want to do business, even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will be able to catch you anytime. Seeing Shang Luo walk out of the void, the casino owner was no longer in tears. Instead, he looked like he was about to cry. 5 billion spiritual crystals. Even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be able to afford it. More importantly, he couldn't go back on his word. "Young Miss Shang, are you here to collect your debt?" The casino owner's face was ashen. "No, it's not my style to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. How about this? Seeing that you're quite pitiful, I won't take the bet. I'll buy your underground casino in Beiyang country for 50 million spiritual crystals. Do you think that's a problem?" Shang Luo shrewdly calculated. The gambling den's boss spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot when he heard this. One had to know that his gambling den had once been offered 2 billion spirit crystals by a bigwig from Beiyang Nation, but he hadn't been willing to sell it. In the end, Shang Luo had swallowed up his business without spending a single cent. The casino owner's heart wanted to kill himself. It was all his fault. How could he not see that Yi Fei was actually the biggest dark horse on the earth roll this time? I won't bicker with Yi Fei for the time being since I've made a huge profit this time. However, Zhao Yu, this casino now belongs to the Merchant Alliance. Don't you think it's a little too much for you to take away 1 billion spiritual crystals without doing anything? Shang Luo finished speaking and looked outside the casino. Zhao Yu, who was wearing a light veil, walked in. She looked at Shang Luo calmly and said, "You can also choose to go back on your word." Shang Luo won't go back on my word. That's because you can't beat me. Zhao Yu naturally took the 1 billion spiritual crystals that belonged to her and floated away. This time, she didn't do anything to Shang Luo. Shang Luo also found it strange. That's strange. Since she thinks so highly of Yi Fei, why did she secretly place a bet and refuse to meet Yi Fei? However, I can't lose to her. I can lose to anyone but her. Obviously, Shang Luo had suffered a heavy blow after sensing Zhao Yu's terrifying 10th stage Martial King cultivation. It seems that after we go back, I'll have to go into seclusion to cultivate for a while. Eldest Miss wants to cultivate? The nearby experts of the Merchant Alliance were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. One had to know that Shang Luo usually ate nothing but spiritual melons. Why would she want to cultivate? Did the sun rise from the west? The Saint-level spirit spring in the northern ocean country was bigger than Yi Fei had imagined. If the Saint-level spirit spring that Yi Fei encountered in the previous 2 times was only the size of a well, then this Saint-level spirit spring was the size of a lake. Now, the Saint-level spirit spring that Yi Fei was cultivating in was as big as a lake. No wonder the Northern Heavenly King wasn't worried that he would absorb all the spiritual chi in it. This spirit spring was so big that Yi Fei estimated that even if he was given another 10 days, he would still be able to absorb all the spiritual chi in it. He wouldn't be able to consume all the spiritual chi in it. However, there was an advantage to having such a big spirit spring. It was full of spiritual chi, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough spiritual chi for cultivation. It seems that there is hope for me to break through to the 7th stage Martial King realm this time. Yi Fei looked excited. He had been stuck in the 6th stage Martial King realm for a whole year. Now, the Saint-level Spirit Spring was the best opportunity for Yi Fei to break through. Yi Fei immediately activated the Devil Emperor Sutra and began to cultivate rapidly. As he cultivated, the spiritual chi in the entire Spirit Spring immediately rushed into Yi Fei's body. However, it didn't enter his dantian. Instead, it turned around and rushed into the beast mark. What's going on? Oh no, Xiao Qiao, you're trying to snatch it from me. Yi Fei finally realized that something was wrong. He saw that only 10% of the spiritual chi he had absorbed was absorbed into his body. The rest was completely absorbed by Xiao Qiao. Yi Fei felt depressed. How could he have forgotten that apart from the immortal sword spirit in his dantian that had a huge appetite, the little girl hiding in the beast mark was also good at absorbing spiritual chi? She's not going to absorb all the spiritual chi in the spirit spring, is she? Yi Fei had seen how terrifying the little girl's absorption of spiritual chi was. No matter how much spiritual chi there was, it wouldn't be enough to fill her little belly. Yi Fei had no choice but to grab the little girl out of the beast mark. Helplessly, he realized that most of the spiritual chi he had tried to absorb was being absorbed by the little girl. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but after absorbing half of the spiritual chi in the spirit spring, Xiao Qiao seemed to have grown a little taller. Her face also became more pink and cute. Now is not the time to worry about these things. I should hurry up and use the spiritual chi to increase my cultivation. As for the spiritual chi I've lost, I'll just treat it as my repayment for helping me. In any case, the spirit spring didn't belong to him. Even if it was depleted, Yi Fei wouldn't feel the slightest bit of heartache. However, the Northern Heavenly King, who was standing guard in the distance, had to suffer. What kind of cultivation technique is this kid cultivating? How can he absorb spiritual chi so quickly? If he wasn't the only one here, I would have suspected that there was someone secretly cultivating inside. The Northern Heavenly King's eyes widened in disbelief. He suddenly regretted saying that it didn't matter if Yi Fei absorbed all the spirit spring. No matter how he looked at it, the speed at which Yi Fei absorbed the spirit spring was inhuman. Of course, the Northern Heavenly King would never have guessed that Yi Fei only used a very small portion of the spiritual chi for cultivation. The remaining 99% was completely absorbed by Xiao Qiao. She ate until her little belly became round and couldn't absorb any more. Only then did Xiao Qiao burp in satisfaction. She lay back down in the beast mark and fell into a deep sleep. Her body also emitted a very pleasant fragrance that enveloped her and Yi Fei. Hey, this fragrance! What a rich, spiritual medicine fragrance! My bottleneck seems to have loosened. Yi Fei sniffed hard. Sure enough, he discovered that under the influence of this fragrance, the circulation of the Devil Emperor Sutra in his body increased rapidly. Before he could understand what was going on, there was a boom. Yi Fei's cultivation had broken through from the 6th to the 7th Martial King realm. At this time, only 3 days had passed. I actually broke through my bottleneck in 3 days? Yi Fei was stunned. At this time, how could he not know how precious Xiao Qiao in the beast mark was? Chapter 513. Meeting the King. Brat, listen up. When you meet the king, you must be respectful. If you offend the king, I will be the first to skin you alive. Humph. The Northern Heavenly King led Yi Fei to the king's chambers. His face was black and white, white and black. He gritted his teeth, and his attitude was completely different from before. Yi Fei also obediently followed behind without saying a word, but in his heart, he was very depressed. Who asked him to use up the Saint-grade spirit spring in just 3 days' time? Even though the real culprit was not him but the little girl hiding in the beast mark, Yi Fei still had to take the blame. On the other hand, the Northern Heavenly King was able to hold back his anger even though he had suffered such a heavy loss. He only glared at Yi Fei coldly. This was already considered magnanimous. However, it's really strange. Xiao Qiao absorbed so much spiritual energy, but why didn't she change at all? Apart from eating, she slept. I didn't see her increase her strength at all. Or maybe she's different from us human martial artists, so there's no classification of realms? Yi Fei pondered as he walked. Soon, he was shocked by a majestic aura. Needless to say, this aura could only be emitted by a titled martial artist, Wu Jun. At this point, the Northern Heavenly King was also shocked. He whispered to Yi Fei, "Don't make a ruckus. His Majesty is cultivating. We'll come back later." Just as the Northern Heavenly King was about to bring Yi Fei back, the King of the Northern Ocean Kingdom was alarmed. He said with a hint of surprise, "Beigong, you let Yi Fei finish cultivating so quickly? Your Majesty, it's not that I don't want this brat to cultivate. It's just that the spirit spring has been completely absorbed by him." The Northern Heavenly King's expression was very ugly. Completely absorbed? The Northern Ocean King's face twitched. Fortunately, they were separated by a room, so no one could see the change in his expression. "Let him in then." Yi Fei's expression turned ugly. Judging from the Northern Ocean King's tone, he didn't know if he was angry or not. However, since they were already here, they had no choice but to enter. He had no choice but to brace himself and walk in. He bowed to a king who was wearing a dragon robe and exuded a solemn aura. Yi Fei greets the King of the Northern Ocean. The Northern Heavenly King said, "Damn it! You should address him as Your Majesty." "It's fine." The Northern Heavenly King didn't mind how Yi Fei addressed him. The Northern Heavenly King then left speechlessly. The Northern Heavenly King looked at Yi Fei and didn't finish his sentence. He just sized up Yi Fei. Yi Fei didn't mind the Northern Ocean King's gaze. Instead, he looked straight at the Northern Ocean King calmly and said, "Is there something that you need me to do for you?" "How did you know that I have something that I need you to do?" The Northern Ocean King was very surprised. He didn't expect Yi Fei to react so quickly. Yi Fei pursed his lips and thought to himself, "One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. You asked me to enter the national treasury and soak in the spirit spring. If the earth roll rewards me like this every time, no matter how many treasures there are in the national treasury, they won't be able to withstand the consumption." Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. "I guessed," Yi Fei said casually. The Northern Ocean King looked deeply at Yi Fei and suddenly changed the topic. He asked, "Yi Fei, let me ask you, what's the difference between the Northern Ocean and my Northern Ocean?" "The difference is like heaven and earth," Yi Fei said helplessly. He had no choice. Although there were many countries in the Northern Ocean, the combined strength of all the countries was only equivalent to a large prefecture in the Northern Ocean. The difference was extraordinarily huge. This was also the reason why Sword Maniac Elder had insisted that Yi Fei come to the Northern Ocean. Only by truly leaving the Northern Ocean could he broaden his horizons. "Then do you know why my Northern Ocean has never annexed the Northern Ocean?" The Northern Ocean King asked again. This question stumped Yi Fei. Indeed, the Northern Ocean was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the Northern Ocean. Although the Northern Ocean had the Heavenly Insect and the Taishan Sacred Ground, they were still weak compared to the Northern Ocean. Logically speaking, it should be very easy for the Northern Ocean to annex the 18 countries in the Northern Ocean. Why hadn't the Northern Ocean Kingdom done so? Your Majesty, please enlighten me, Yi Fei said seriously. Yi Fei's attitude was very serious. He could faintly sense that the Northern Ocean King had summoned him for more than just an audience. The Northern Ocean King nodded. All right, I'll explain it to you. Do you know that 1,000 years ago, the first Taishan sacred lord came from the royal family of the Northern Ocean? In the end, he even fought to the death for the royal family. What? The first sacred lord was actually a member of the royal family of the Northern Ocean? Yi Fei was shocked. However, this was not impossible, because the first sacred lord's name was Zhu Jun, and the royal family of the Northern Ocean Kingdom also had the surname Zhu. If that's the case, why did the first sacred lord go to the Northern Ocean to establish a sacred ground? Isn't it better to stay in the Northern Ocean Kingdom? Yi Fei was puzzled. A bitter smile appeared on the Northern Ocean King's face. As a descendant, I can't comment on the actions of my ancestors. I don't know if you've heard of the saying that a country can't have two kings. Isn't this saying that a mountain can't have two tigers? Yi Fei's expression was a little strange. He finally understood why the first sacred lord left the Northern Ocean Kingdom. A mountain can't have two tigers? It's a very apt metaphor. Basically, the situation is like this. Whether it's my ancestors or the first sacred lord of your sacred ground, they were all amazing talent. They became martial kings at the same time and became Wu Jun at the same time. Such geniuses would be a good thing in any family. But in the royal family, it's a headache. After all, there's only one throne. The Northern Ocean King took out a scroll and passed it to Yi Fei. In the end, the two ancestors fought. They agreed that whoever lost would leave the Northern Ocean. The battle ended with the first sacred lord's defeat. So, he went to the most remote place in the Northern Ocean and established the Taishan sacred ground. Before he left, he signed an agreement with my ancestors. As long as the sacred ground didn't fall, the Northern Ocean Kingdom couldn't annex the Northern Ocean. Yi Fei finally understood why the Northern Ocean Kingdom, which was so weak, didn't send troops to occupy it. Instead, it allowed the Northern Ocean Kingdom to send warriors to participate in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking Contest. The reason was because of this. However, Your Majesty, why are you telling me this? Yi Fei had a feeling that the Northern Ocean King wasn't telling him this simply to get closer to him. Yi Fei, you're a smart person. I won't beat around the bush. I'm telling you this because I want you to know how important the Northern Ocean Kingdom is to the Northern Ocean. Ever since the first sacred lord died in battle for my ancestors, the Northern Ocean Kingdom has been taking care of and protecting the Northern Ocean for the past 1,000 years. As long as the Northern Ocean Kingdom exists, no power in the northern region will dare to openly attack the Northern Ocean. But if the Northern Ocean Kingdom doesn't exist one day, even if the sword maniac becomes a sword sage, he won't be able to protect the Northern Ocean from being invaded by the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Chapter 5:14. The monarch's request. Yi Fei was speechless. He was not a 3-year-old child. How could he not understand what the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom wanted to express? To put it simply, the relationship between the Northern Ocean Kingdom and the Northern Ocean Kingdom, or rather, the relationship between the Northern Ocean Kingdom and the Taishan Holy Land, was a relationship where the Northern Ocean Kingdom flourished and the Taishan Holy Land suffered together. Due to the agreement, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would not interfere in the internal affairs of the Northern Ocean Kingdom, such as the competition between the 18 kingdoms of the North Sea and the battle between the Taishan Holy Land and the Heavenly Yin sect. However, if other external forces were involved, such as the other kingdoms of the northern region, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would not tolerate any family that wanted to occupy the Northern Ocean Kingdom and establish their own forces. Firstly, the Northern Ocean Kingdom was a part of the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Secondly, no monarch would tolerate an enemy establishing their forces in their heartland. Now, Yi Fei understood that it was because of the colossal Beiyang kingdom that sheltered the North Sea from the wind and rain, that allowed the weak North Sea to be peaceful for thousands of years without experiencing much war. However, there was one thing that Yi Fei did not quite understand. Why would the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom suddenly say that the Northern Ocean Kingdom would perish if the Northern Ocean Kingdom perished? Could it be that even a powerful kingdom like the Northern Ocean Kingdom would perish one day? Yi Fei's face involuntarily revealed a look of shock. The monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom saw the change in Yi Fei's expression and sighed heavily. Yi Fei, it seems that you have understood. That's right. I am telling you all this because I am afraid that the Northern Ocean Kingdom will not be able to hold on for long and may perish. Perish? How is that possible? Your Majesty is in the prime of your life and is a Wu Jun expert. Who in the northern region would dare to cause trouble for your Majesty? Yi Fei was shocked. The monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom suddenly coughed violently. He did not need to pretend in front of Yi Fei. Wisps of black aura came out of his nostrils. The aura was extremely evil. It was so evil that Yi Fei felt a chill run down his spine and his entire body trembled. At this moment, Yi Fei finally understood why the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said such a thing. Your Majesty, are you injured? Yi Fei couldn't help but have a look of fear on his face. To be able to make the powerful Wu Jun experts reveal a sickly black aura, could it be that the experts from the other 3 countries have joined forces to attack His Majesty? No, it's not them. One of them is only an accomplice. The one who truly injured me is another terrifying expert. Even now, I still can't find out who that person is and what his realm is. A shocking blood-red flame suddenly ignited on the Northern Ocean Monarch's body. Yi Fei knew that it was the Northern Ocean King's own qi and blood. As it turned out, he had been burning his own blood essence to suppress the black gas in his body. This black gas is very strange. It cannot be eliminated, but it can continuously devour my life essence blood. Once my essence blood is exhausted, it will be the time for me to die. The Northern Ocean King spat out another mouthful of black blood. With great difficulty, he managed to suppress the black gas that he had released. Then, he looked at Yi Fei with bright eyes. Yi Fei also looked at the Northern Ocean King with a serious expression. He knew that this was probably the Northern Ocean King's greatest secret. Even if he didn't ask, the Northern Ocean King would definitely tell him. As for the reason, Yi Fei still didn't know, and he didn't need to know. He only knew one thing, and that was that if the lips were gone, the teeth would be interdependent. Once the Northern Ocean King died from his injuries, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would lose the suppression of Wu Jun experts. The other 3 countries would definitely not let go of this opportunity to divide the Northern Ocean Kingdom. And once the Northern Ocean Kingdom was destroyed, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would be next. Even though the Northern Ocean Kingdom has the Sword Maniac Elder, the old Master Jian has only recently stepped onto the path of a Sword Saint. At most, he is only at the first realm of Wu Jun compared to the monarchs of the other 3 countries. The old Master Jian might not be a match for them even if he has a sacred weapon. Yi Fei thought to himself. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. He was also from the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Naturally, he didn't want the flames of war in the northern region to spread to the Northern Ocean Kingdom. After stabilizing his injuries, the Northern Ocean King continued, "Of course, Yi Fei, you don't have to worry too much. After so many years, although I haven't found the enemy who plotted against me, I have finally found a way to neutralize the black aura in my body. However, I am powerless with this method. I need a true young prodigy to be able to help me. Originally, I thought highly of Lin Tianjiao. However, this person isn't from the Northern Ocean Kingdom. I was also worried that once I revealed this secret to him, not only would I not be able to help, but I would also attract the greed of the other 3 monarchs. That was until I met you." The Northern Ocean King suddenly looked at Yi Fei with some excitement. Your strength and talent are enough to rival a northern region prodigy like Lin Tianjiao. If it's you, Yi Fei, tell me, do you have the confidence to enter the heaven-forsaken land and help me find the sacred bone of a martial saint? The sacred bone of a martial saint? Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. He was no longer a martial arts newbie. Of course, he knew what a sacred bone was. It was just like how a martial king expert would leave behind a talent crystal before they died. It was highly possible for an omnipotent grand sage expert to leave behind a sacred bone after death. This sacred bone also contained the martial saint's lifetime understanding of the divine path. It was incomparably precious. Yi Fei had never imagined that the Northern Ocean King would actually ask him to search for such an item. Why me? Monarch, won't you be more confident if you go yourself? Or let the 4 heavenly kings go instead? Yi Fei asked, puzzled. The Northern Ocean King was even more puzzled. He looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression and asked, Why? Didn't your master tell you what the heaven-forsaken land is? My master? Yi Fei was shocked. Could it be that the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom knew something? Yi Fei looked up and saw the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom looking at Yi Fei meaningfully. However, the Northern Ocean King did not force Yi Fei to admit that he was the martial monarch's disciple. When he saw that Yi Fei's shock did not seem to be fake, he immediately said in a deep voice, The heaven-forsaken land is the most unique place in our northern region. It is said that it was once the ancient era. Our northern region even has a trace of inheritance left behind by the strongest sect in the entire Tianwu continent. To enter the heaven-forsaken land, there is an extremely harsh condition. That is, one must be a young genius below the age of 30 and above the martial king realm. Only then can one enter the heaven-forsaken land and obtain the ancient era's inheritance. Do you think that I don't want to go? It's because I can't go at all. The king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom smiled bitterly and looked at Yi Fei expectantly. Yi Fei was immediately depressed. He understood that he had to help this time. After all, the Northern Ocean King had already given him countless benefits. He had also clearly stated the strong relationship between the Northern Ocean and the Northern Ocean. If he did not think of a way to help the Northern Ocean King recover from his injuries, once the Northern Ocean King died and the Northern Ocean King was destroyed, the Northern Ocean King would immediately be drawn into the flames of war and disputes. He could ignore the lives of others, but the Taishan Holy Lands Foundation was in the Northern Ocean. The family Yes Foundation was also in the Northern Ocean. No matter what, Yi Fei did not wish to see his family and friends die in the chaos of war. Chapter 5:15. Blood. Yiksha. Yi Fei's reply made the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom heave a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, I have been waiting for this day for many years. Unfortunately, the geniuses of the Northern Ocean Kingdom are all useless. None of them can reach the level of the geniuses of the North region. Yi Fei, the Northern Ocean Kingdom will depend on you in the future. Also, you don't have to force yourself to go to the heaven-forsaken land. Subsequently, the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom told Yi Fei the details of the heaven-forsaken land. It turned out that the North region in ancient times was not as desolate and dilapidated as it was now. In ancient times, although the North region was not as prosperous as the Middle region, its unique geographical location allowed the geniuses of the North region to be numerous. 10,000 years ago, the great Emperor Wang Qing had walked out of the North region and defeated countless geniuses of the Middle region. However, the great Emperor Wang Qing had not been so extraordinary from the start. According to the records of the Northern Ocean Kingdom, the great Emperor Wang Qing had been a very ordinary genius in the North region in his early years. He was even inferior to the current Lin Tianjiao. However, ever since the great Emperor Wang Qing had accidentally discovered the heaven-forsaken land and entered it, the ordinary genius had cultivated to the martial emperor realm in 100 years. From then on, he had dominated the north region and suppressed the powerful middle region until they could not breathe. From then on, the heaven-forsaken land had become famous in the north region. It had also become a trial that countless geniuses of the north region had to go through before they headed to the middle region. Why do you think the 4 kingdoms of the north region hold a heaven and earth supreme ranking list every 3 years? It's not only because of the ancient tradition. More importantly, we want to use this method to select the true geniuses so that they can enter the heaven-abandoned land. Yi Fei, if you want to become stronger and surpass Lin Tianjiao, and even head to the middle region where geniuses are as common as clouds, you have to enter the heaven-forsaken land. Only by passing the test of the heaven-forsaken land will you have the chance to transform into a true expert. The king of the Northern Ocean revealed many secrets to Yi Fei without holding anything back. When Yi Fei agreed to help him find the sacred bone of the martial saint, the king of the Northern Ocean no longer treated Yi Fei as a subject, but as a junior worth nurturing. This discussion lasted until dawn. Yi Fei had gained a lot that night. He also knew that there were still 3 years before the heaven-forsaken land would open again. 3 years? I will definitely go to the heaven-forsaken land. Only by passing the test of the heaven-forsaken land will I be truly qualified to go to the Central Plains. Yi Fei left the palace with a determined look in his eyes. When he left, the 4 heavenly kings had all gathered beside the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom. The Northern Heavenly King knelt down worriedly and said, "Your Majesty, are you sure you want to do this? Your health concerns the fate of our Beiyang nation. If you carelessly hand the task over to Yi Fei, what if he fails or accidentally reveals your injuries? It's fine. I can't hide my injuries even if I want to. Besides, I trust him," the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said firmly. The 4 heavenly kings also lowered their heads. The Western Heavenly King said with a gloomy face, "Your Majesty, I found that the Bai family seems to want to harm Yi Fei. Do you want us to secretly take action?" The Bai family? They're just ants. Their little tricks can hurt others, but they can't hurt Yi Fei. How can the disciple of such an existence be trifled with? The king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said with disdain. He didn't take the Bai family seriously at all. The 4 heavenly kings were puzzled. Who was that existence? This was the first time they had seen the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom mention someone with such a respectful tone. After leaving the palace, Yi Fei planned to head to the Flower Fairy Palace to meet up with his friends and fellow disciples in the imperial capital. However, he realized that only Long Gang and the other 2 were there. Qin Bing had already left early to begin his solitary cultivation journey. Jing Wushou, the 10th prince, and the others had seen the cruelty of the earth roll and had also left early to return to the sacred land. They vowed to cultivate in seclusion. "Brother Yi, why don't you stay in the imperial capital?" Long Gang suggested. "No, I have to return to the North Sea. Besides, I have to go and take a look at the North Sea Pass." Yi Fei didn't forget about the hidden flood dragon in the North Sea Pass. The flood dragon was full of treasures. He couldn't defeat the flood dragon last time and could only escape. This time, he had to get back at it no matter what. Only then did Long Gang and the other 2 remember that Yi Fei was now the sword monarch of the North Sea. Of course, he couldn't fool around with them in the imperial capital. Therefore, they didn't force him. Both parties drank until they were drunk. The next day, without alerting anyone, Yi Fei rose into the air and left the imperial capital, preparing to return to the sacred land. But at the same time he left, suddenly, Xiao Chao's babbling came from the beast mark. It kept waving its hands as if it was reminding Yi Fei of something. "Xiao Chao, what's wrong? You don't look well. Are you sick?" Yi Fei asked with concern. Bang! In the beast mark, the little girl's face darkened and she fell to the ground miserably. She couldn't be bothered to fight with the big stupid pig in front of her. She directly wrote the word "stalking" in the air. "Stalking? I'm being stalked?" Yi Fei looked around blankly. Except for himself, he didn't sense anyone else's aura. However, he didn't doubt Xiao Chao's words. In terms of sensitivity to auras, no one could compare to Xiao Chao, who could transform into a plant. Yi Fei's body quickly landed on a desolate hill. With a sullen face, he shouted coldly, "Sneaky? What are you trying to do by following me? Come out and see me." "Hey kid, you're not that strong. How can you sense that I'm stalking you?" "It seems that your confidence has swelled after you forced Lin Tianjiao to retreat." Silently, another man in a blood-red robe appeared on the hill. Seeing this man, Yi Fei suddenly felt a sense of familiarity and disgust. "The blood-red robe of the Blood Demon sect? You're from the Blood Demon sect?" Yi Fei's heart sank. It was actually someone from the Blood Demon sect who was stalking him. Could it be that the Blood Demon sect had found out about him killing the blood-robed martial king and snatching the blood booty? However, he didn't know that the blood-robed man was also shocked when he heard Yi Fei's words. "Damn it, you actually know about our Blood Demon sect. Tell me, how did you know? Tell me honestly and I'll leave you with an intact corpse." This person's words also stunned Yi Fei. What was going on? From this person's tone, it didn't seem like he was chasing him because of the blood-robed martial king or the blood booty. "Tell me, why are you stalking me? Tell me honestly and I'll leave you with an intact corpse," Yi Fei retorted. He took a step forward. Even in the face of a 10th-level martial king, he didn't show any weakness. This immediately angered the blood-robed man in front of him. The man said angrily, "Good, Junior, you dare to talk nonsense in front of me. Since you don't want to talk, I'll take your life and search your soul. I'll still get what I want. Remember, I'm Blood Yiksha. Since you know that I'm from the Blood Demon sect, you'll die here today. Blood Demon Boundless." Caw caw caw. The sky was filled with the strange laughter of the blood crows. Their eyes were red as they formed terrifying blood clouds that pounced towards Yi Fei. Chapter 5:16. Serial Poison Stratagem. What a strange demonic art. Even though he had dealt with the Blood Demon sect before, Yi Fei was still shocked when he saw this demonic art. Demonic slaughter. Yi Fei didn't dare to be careless. His 70% slaughter fist intent exploded. Layers of demonic fists formed illusions in the sky and mercilessly killed the blood crows. Kakaka, kill, kill. My blood demon sect's might is boundless. As long as our blood doesn't dry up, our strength will never run out. Among the blood crows, Blood Yiksha's gloating and sinister laughter rang out. Yi Fei was also shocked to discover that the blood crows he had killed, even though they had already turned into a mass of flesh and blood, could still wriggle quickly. Not long after, they regained their blood crow's form. Knowing that the demonic slaughter couldn't deal with these blood crows, Yi Fei suddenly roared. A huge black hole appeared above his head. "Since I can't kill you, I might as well devour you all. Brat, you dare!" Yi Fei's action just so happened to grab hold of one of the blood crow's weak spots. The blood crows that filled the sky suddenly disappeared, leaving only one blood crow that happened to land behind Yi Fei. It rapidly grew to the size of a mountain, and its sharp claws viciously clawed at Yi Fei's black hole space. Boom! The devouring sword intent that he had just condensed couldn't withstand the blood crow's sharp claws and shattered on the spot. Yi Fei's mouth also revealed a trace of blood. He turned around with a serious expression and said, "You're actually an unrivaled martial king?" "Kakaka, I'm an unrivaled martial king, an existence on par with the 4 heavenly kings. North Sea Sword King, seeing that you have some potential, if you can kneel down and swear to join my blood demon sect and become a blood slave, I can consider letting you go." Blood Yiksha smiled proudly. Although the Bai family wanted him to kill Yi Fei, he felt that Yi Fei's identity as the North Sea Sword King was very useful. If he could control Yi Fei, then the Blood Demon sect could control the North Sea Pass and even the entire White Sea. "You want me to be your blood slave?" The former blood-robed martial king also said similar words to me. Unfortunately, he is already dead. Yi Fei coldly wiped away a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. The person in front of him was an invincible martial king. No wonder he was no match for him, even though he was only a 7th-layer martial king. However, Yi Fei was not afraid. As long as it was not a real genius like Lin Tianjiao, he would not be afraid of anyone below the martial king realm. Kill. This time, Yi Fei took the initiative to charge at Blood Yiksha. Blood Yiksha also stared at Yi Fei with a ferocious expression and roared, "Roar, damn it, no wonder you know about my blood demon church. You actually killed a protector of our blood demon church. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it!" Boom. 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 The Blood Yiksha went crazy. Countless sharp claws tore through the air with explosive sounds, uprooting and tearing apart the hills that both sides were standing on. But just as Blood Yiksha thought that Yi Fei would be killed by him, Yi Fei's expression changed. Whoosh! The sky burned with raging flames. Within the flames there was a phoenix cry. There was no one else around, so Yi Fei did not have to worry about anything. He raised the phoenix blood sword. With the sacred artifact in hand, Yi Fei's aura skyrocketed like a volcano. With endless pressure, he slashed forward. Blood Yiksha, don't you want to know how the blood-robed martial king died? Now, I'll let you have a taste of being killed by a sacred artifact. Sacred artifact? The tyrannical Blood Yiksha felt the pressure of the phoenix blood sword and saw Yi Fei's terrifying sword. Suddenly, an extreme feeling of fear emerged in his heart. Sacred artifact, this kid actually has a sacred artifact. No wonder he could kill the blood-robed martial king and the Bai family. You actually tricked me and made me deal with a freak with a sacred artifact. At this moment, Blood Yiksha was so angry that he wanted to curse. However, when he saw Yi Fei's terrifying sword light, he was so scared that he swallowed it back down. With a scream, Blood Yiksha turned around and fled. His wings were trembling. That was a sacred artifact. Unless he stepped into the sacred king realm, even if he was an unrivaled martial king, he would still be killed. Roar, kid, as long as I don't die, my blood demon sect will chase you to the ends of the earth and seize your sacred artifact. Blood Yiksha did not give up as he fled for his life. His eyes revealed a trace of greed. At this moment, Yi Fei's lips also flashed with a cold smile. You're not the first to want to seize my sacred artifact, and you won't be the last. Boom! Heaven and earth shook as the wind and blood burned. Yi Fei held the phoenix blood sword and stepped into the void. A huge sword light, carrying the pressure of a sacred artifact, slashed forward in an instant. No! Blood Yiksha roared in horror. He used all his strength to try and block the sword. However, the power of a sacred artifact was too terrifying. With a martial king, he could even fight with Wu Jun, let alone a mere unrivaled 10th-rank martial king. Poof! Yi Fei's sword slashed down and instantly killed the huge blood crow in front of him. Afraid that the monster would not die, Yi Fei activated the divine fire of the phoenix blood sword. The raging flames burned everything. Not even dregs were left in the area. Unfortunately, although Blood Yiksha is strong, he doesn't have a space bag. He doesn't even have a blood bodhi. He's too poor. Yi Fei circled the fire but did not find any treasures. He could only leave gloomily and quickly return to the Taishan sacred ground. It was not until 3 days after Yi Fei left that Blood Yiksha did not reply. Only then did the Bai brothers find out that Blood Yiksha had been killed by Yi Fei. Bai Tiancheng was completely terrified. Blood Yiksha was an unrivaled martial king, comparable to the 4 heavenly kings. However, he had failed to assassinate Yi Fei and was killed instead. Big brother, what should we do? Does Yi Fei know that we are the ones who are plotting against him? Bai Tiancheng was terrified. Bai Tiancheng's face was also extremely ugly. He slapped Bai Tiancheng's face and said, "Trash, I'm not panicking. Why are you panicking? Although Blood Yiksha's death is a little unexpected, it's better this way. I still have 2 plans to kill Yi Fei. Big brother, what plans? Bai Tiancheng asked anxiously. He did not even care about the slap on his face. He wanted to kill Yi Fei too much. Bai Tiancheng laughed sinisterly. He raised 2 fingers and said proudly, "First, Blood Yiksha is not a single person. He is a force that is beyond our imagination. If Yi Fei kills Blood Yiksha, we don't have to do anything. Blood Yiksha will send stronger experts to assassinate Yi Fei. Second, Beihai Sea Pass is a place where crooks mix with honest folk. There are also several powerful sects there. When the Beihai king was still alive, he could only stabilize them through marriage. Tell me, if I suddenly write a letter to them and tell them that the Beihai king was killed by Yi Fei, what would they do?" Bai Tiancheng had a puzzled expression. "Big brother, I heard that the Beihai king was killed by a rampaging flood dragon. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with Yi Fei." "Idiot. I'm only doing this to give those sects an excuse to oppose Yi Fei. When the time comes, this country bumpkin will have internal and external troubles. We don't even have to do anything. He won't live for long," Bai Tiancheng said confidently as he looked at his younger brother with a sinister expression. Chapter 5:17. Family Yi exits the pass. Yi Fei had no idea that the Bai brothers had been plotting against him and had managed to dig up what had happened to him in the North Sea Pass. If one really wanted to think about it, the North Sea King's death really had something to do with Yi Fei. This was because if Yi Fei hadn't snuck into the pool and stolen the Frost Wyrm's corpse that the Flood Dragon was guarding, the North Sea King wouldn't have died so aggrieved. Of course, Yi Fei didn't know any of this yet. The Blood Yiksha had died so quickly that Yi Fei didn't even have time to ask who had plotted against him. After another month of traveling, Yi Fei barely managed to return to the North Sea from the North Sea. It was clear how far the North Sea was from the North Sea and how big the entire northern region was. Yi Fei had thought that if he could join the Taishan Holy Land, he would definitely be able to go to the Star Moon Holy Land. Now that he thought about it, it was laughable. They were both holy lands, but if the Star Moon Holy Land was as bright as a star in the Central Plains, then the Taishan Holy Land was an insignificant speck of dust in the entire northern region. After entering the North Sea, Yi Fei didn't immediately return to the Taishan Holy Land. Instead, he decided to go to Zhao and Tianyun Wufu to take a look. After all, he had been out for more than a year and the family Yi had stayed in the Demon Ceiling Tower for 2 full years. In the past, he didn't have the ability to protect himself and could only let the family Yi stay in the Demon Ceiling Tower. Things were different now. The Sword Maniac Elder had stepped onto the path of a Sword Saint and he had become the Sword King of the North Sea. In the entire North Sea, there was no one or power that could threaten him. The first thing Yi Fei did after returning to the North Sea was to release the family Yi from the Demon Ceiling Tower. After being cooped up in there for more than 2 years, Uncle Jian and the others must be bored out of their minds. Zhao had gone through the turmoil of the Heavenly Yin sect and was no longer in existence. However, Tianyun Wufu was still the same as before. There were even disciples of the Holy Land stationed around it. Yi Fei understood that these disciples were sent by the Holy Land to protect his family Yi. He didn't alarm these people, and instead quietly circled around them, directly entering the inner space of the Demon Ceiling Pagoda. As soon as he entered, Yi Fei heard Yi Jian scolding loudly, "A bunch of brats. Haven't you eaten yet? Run faster. Whoever slacks off won't have anything to eat today." "Uncle Jian, no! We will work hard to cultivate and win glory for the family Yi. We are all good children of the family Yi." A group of youths were sweating profusely. They were carrying huge rocks on their backs and training themselves. Yi Jian and a few elders of the family Yi were supervising them from the side. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, Yi Fei realized that Yi Jian's strength had improved very quickly. He was already at the first level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. However, Bai Ling and Zhuang Ling were the fastest. They had both refined the talent crystals Yi Fei had given them. Even if they hadn't reached the Earth grade, they were all at least Black grade 10. This kind of talent was nothing in the Holy Land. However, in small places like the family Yi and Tianyan Wufu, they were already amazing geniuses. In addition, before the Demon King left, he had specially taught them martial arts. This was a great help to the cultivation of the family Yi and Wu province. Master, you're finally back. The first person Yi Fei sensed when he entered was Feng Xinyang. After all, she had a contract with Yi Fei. Therefore, she sensed Yi Fei the moment he entered. What? Yi Fei is back. Young Master is finally back. The heavens have eyes. The bitter days of the demon sealing pagoda are finally over. Seeing that Yi Fei had returned, the disciples of the family Yi and Wu province were all in tears. Although the demon sealing pagoda was very safe, it was very boring to be trapped in one place all the time. Brat, you're finally willing to come back. Yi Jian, Yi Bufan, the old mansion master, and the others all rushed over. Yi Fei also greeted these elders one by one. Then, he looked at Bai Ling and Zhuang Ling and nodded. Sister Bai Ling, Zhuang Ling it seems that you've improved a lot during this period. You're already at the third level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. Yi Fei, no matter how much we've improved, we can't compare to you. I can't even sense your cultivation level now, Bai Ling said curiously. Zhuang Ling looked at Yi Fei shyly and called out, Brother Yi Fei. Obviously, after 2 years of calming down, although Zhuang Ling no longer had a crush on Yi Fei, she was still a little shy when she thought of Yi Fei. Ahem, Yi Fei, what's your cultivation level now? The old mansion master looked at Yi Fei from all angles. He was a third-level martial honorable realm cultivator, but he still couldn't see his exact cultivation level. It's nothing. I just broke through to the 7th level of the martial king realm not long ago. Yi Fei scratched his head embarrassedly. However, he didn't know that his words shocked many people present. What? 7th level of the martial king realm? Doesn't this mean that from now on, our family Yi will have a martial king expert guarding it? Young master, we love you. The group of girls from the family Yi all looked at Yi Fei with adoration. Some of the bolder ones even threw seductive looks at Yi Fei, making Yi Fei feel very awkward. It seemed that the atmosphere of the family Yi wasn't rectified enough. After chatting with everyone for a while, Yi Fei urged, All right, Uncle Jian, let's go out first. Everyone, get ready. I'll bring you out of the demon sealing pagoda now. What? We can go out now? Don't we have to wait for 3 years? Young master, will we be a burden to you if we go out now? Everyone was happy to hear that they could go out. However, they were afraid that the family Ye's strength was too weak. Not only would they not be able to help Yi Fei, they would also be a burden to Yi Fei. Yi Fei laughed when he heard this. He waved his hand and said, Everyone, don't worry. Now that Elder Sword Maniac has stepped into the path of a sword saint and the heavenly Een cult has been destroyed, our family Yi can do whatever we want in the entire North Sea. Oh right, it's not just the North Sea then. Yi Fei told everyone about how he went to Beiyang country, participated in the Earth ranking, and was conferred the title of Sword King of the North Sea. Grand Elder Yi Chao was scared silly on the spot. He pulled at his white beard with all his strength and fell to his knees with a plop. He wailed, Ancestors, please forgive us. Our family Yi has finally made a great leap and was conferred the title of Sword King of the North Sea. This is all thanks to Yi Fei. After crying, the old man pointed at the elders and disciples of the family Yi who had bullied and looked down on Yi Fei in the past. He scolded, Look at you, all of you good-for-nothings. If it wasn't for this old man supporting Yi Fei, would our family Yi be where it is today? Ahem, Grand Elder, please don't mention the past. We were born with a pair of dog eyes. Haven't we already reflected on our mistakes? Many of the elders of the family Yi were red in the face. Yi Fei had become the Sword King of the North Sea and brought glory to their ancestors. It should have been an honor for all the disciples of the family Yi. However, after being scolded by Yi Chao, many of them had ashamed expressions on their faces. Yi Fei wasn't a petty person, so he waved his hand and said, "Grand Elder, let bygones be bygones. As long as the family Yi works together in the future, everything will be fine. By the way, this is my reward for being first on the Earth ranking. It's 100 Earth Spirit Pills. It can raise any cultivator's talent to Earth Grade 1. Yi Bufan, how do you use these pills? Distribute them according to your contributions in the future." Chapter 518. Taking up his post in the end, he wasn't stingy, but that didn't mean that Yi Fei wouldn't hold a grudge. After 3 years of low times, Yi Fei had seen too much ugliness and injustice in the family Yi. That was why Yi Fei gave this precious pill to Yi Bufan to distribute. It also showed that he valued these people who joined the family Yi later. Sure enough, when Yi Fei did this, all the branch family members of the family Yi cheered wildly. On the side of the family Yi, many disciples and elders felt even more regretful. If only they had treated Yi Fei better back then. If only they hadn't ridiculed Yi Fei like that when Yi Fei was low, but there were no ifs in this world. Yi Fei didn't take things too far. At the same time, he also gave these branch family members of the family Yi a chance. That was, if Yi Jian and Yi Bufan both judged that these people had truly turned over a new leaf, they would also receive an Earth Spirit Pill. This made the elders and disciples of the family Yi cheer as well. In the end, when Yi Fei took out the round shield made from the embryo of the sacred artifact and handed it to Yi Jian, the cheers suddenly stopped. The embryo of the sacred artifact. As expected of the young master. He can even bring back such a treasure. Isn't that so? Last time, the young master brought back a top-grade treasure, the golden sword. We were so envious that we drooled. This time, even the embryo of the sacred artifact came out. My family Yi is going to prosper. TSK, as long as the young master is here, it's hard for my family Yi and Tianyun Wufu not to prosper. The disciples of the family Yi and the elders of Tianyun Wufu all cheered excitedly. During the 2 years in the Demon Ceiling Tower, Tianyun Wufu and the family Yi were already inseparable. The Devil Ceiling Pagoda had suppressed the Devil Emperor for 3,000 years, but it had been completely refined by the Devil Emperor and turned into a personal treasure. As Yi Fei led the members of family Yi out of the Demon Ceiling Pagoda, the treasures had their own spirit. Rumble! The entire Zhao Kingdom and even the 18 northern sea nations were shaken violently. A tall pagoda rose from the ground, flew into the sky, and rushed into the vast starry sky of the universe. It's the Demon Ceiling Tower. It actually rushed into the universe? What the hell is going on? Many sects in the North Sea were trembling with fear. They had no idea what was going on. In the Taishan Holy Land, many cultivators also sensed the abnormality of the Demon Ceiling Tower. They all gathered around Elder Sword Maniac. Sacred Master, it's that Demon Ceiling Pagoda. It actually flew away? It doesn't matter. What should come will come, and what should go will go. Looking at the time, Yi Fei should be back soon. Sword Maniac Elder looked at the distant sky with a smile on his face. Yi Fei. When the elders of the Taishan Holy Land heard Yi Fei's name, pride and satisfaction flashed across their faces. This time, Yi Fei had won first place on the Earth list and had really made the Taishan Holy Land famous in the Northern Sea Nation. There were even warriors from the Northern Sea Nation who had come to join the Taishan Holy Land. This was the beginning of the Taishan Holy Land's prosperity. At this time, no elder doubted that Yi Fei would lead the Taishan Holy Land to glory. Even before Yi Fei returned to the Taishan Holy Land, countless elders and disciples of the Taishan Holy Land were already looking forward to Yi Fei's return. However, Yi Fei did not stay in the Taishan Holy Land for long. He first asked Yi Jian and Yi Bufan to lead the members of family Yi to the North Sea Pass in advance. Then, Yi Fei returned to the Taishan Holy Land alone and secretly talked with Elder Sword Maniac for a long time. No one knew what the two of them talked about. When he left the Taishan Holy Land, Yi Fei already had a map to the heaven-forsaken land in his hands. Beside him were Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder, two experts of the 10th level of the Martial King realm. However, now Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder did not dare to call themselves elders in front of Yi Fei. Now Yi Fei's status was very ordinary. He was not only a disciple of the Taishan Holy Land, but also the North Sea Sword King who had been appointed by the King of the Northern Sea. The King of the Northern Sea's meaning was very clear. In the future, not only Beihai Pass, but the entire North Sea would be Yi Fei's fiefdom as long as Yi Fei had the ability to deal with the 18 countries of the North Sea and persuade the Taishan Holy Land. However, the Taishan Holy Land was easy to persuade. It would be too difficult to persuade the 18 countries of the North Sea to give up the throne and submit to Yi Fei in a short time. The old Master Jian has given me a difficult problem. I don't even have control of Beihai Pass, so how can I control the 18 countries of the North Sea? I'm afraid that as soon as I speak, the royal families of these countries will rebel on the spot. Yi Fei recalled his conversation with the Sword Maniac Elder last night and smiled bitterly. Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder, who had followed him to Beihai Pass, could not help but laugh when they heard this. Jin Jizi said, "Holy Son, what are you worried about? The Sword Maniac Holy Master not helping you this time is actually a kind of training for you." The Frenzied Blade Elder also laughed and said, "Yi Fei, you are not only the North Sea Sword King now, but also the future Holy Master of the Taishan Holy Land. Whether you are the North Sea Sword King or the Taishan Holy Master, you must not only be able to fight, but also be able to use tactics and handle government affairs. Only then can you be considered a qualified Holy Master. Handle government affairs. Damn it, elders. Do I look like someone who handles government affairs?" Yi Fei almost vomited blood when he heard this. Hee, don't you still have us old guys to help you? Anyway, since you are the North Sea Sword King, you will have a lot of things to deal with every day. If you can't even solve this little problem, how will you manage the entire North Sea in the future? The Frenzied Blade Elder comforted Yi Fei with a smile. At this moment, Jin Jizi was silent for a while, then suddenly said in a serious tone, "Yi Fei, you don't have to worry about the North Sea. You should be worried about Beihai Pass. There are a few sects here that are not inferior to our Taishan Holy Land. It's just that they have never had a Holy Master before. This time, you suddenly became the North Sea Sword King without their consent. These sects will definitely have opinions in their hearts. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Don't I have the help of the two elders here?" Yi Fei had learned to be smart. Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder in front of him were both experts of the 10th Martial King realm. Not only were they experienced and knowledgeable, they were also shrewd with age. Yi Fei did not have the time to take care of mundane matters like government affairs. It was better to leave it to the two elders. Sensing Yi Fei's intention, the Frenzied Blade Elder and Jin Jizi were very angry. "This kid is unteachable." Jin Jizi was angry when he saw that Yi Fei was still going to leave it to him. "Jin Jizi, don't be angry. With Yi Fei's skills, not to mention you, even the Holy Master can't teach him. Young people should be more willful. Let him go to the ends of the earth. As for us old guys, it's enough to guard the house." The Frenzied Blade Elder was very open-minded. After all, he was like Yi Fei, a battle maniac. This made Jin Jizi depressed. Chatting along the way, the three of them soon arrived at Beihai Pass. However, They did not see the expected scene of officials lining the streets to welcome them. Instead, the city gate was closed. On top of the city wall, there were many soldiers and horses, as if they were facing a great enemy. Chapter 5:19. Qi Yang Sect. The situation in the North Sea Pass was worse than Yi Fei had expected. On the way, he knew that the local forces in the North Sea Pass might not welcome him taking control of the North Sea Pass, nor would they tolerate the Taishan Holy Land stepping into the North Sea Pass to compete with them for benefit. But protests were just protests. Closing the city gates and forbidding Family Yi from entering Beihai Pass was too much. How dare you? Beihai Sword Monarch is here. Why don't you come out to welcome him? Why are you closing the city gates and preventing him and his family from entering? Jin Jizi was the most furious. After all, Yi Fei was not only the prince of Beiyang country, but also the holy son of Taishan Holy Land. If Yi Fei was humiliated, Taishan Holy Land would be humiliated. Hearing Jin Jizi's words and sensing his martial king's strength, the soldiers on the city wall were in an uproar. After all, he was a martial king. His Majesty had personally given him the title of Beihai Sword Monarch. Many generals subconsciously looked at the old men in the middle of the city wall. These old men were all wearing the uniform of the sect. Hearing Jin Jizi's words, their faces were filled with anger. One of the old men couldn't hold it in any longer. He rushed out and shouted, "Jin Jizi, you're talking nonsense. What Beihai Sword Monarch? How come we've never heard of him? We've received news that Yi Fei of Taishan Holy Land killed him. Murdering the Beihai Sword Monarch is a crime punishable by death. It's a pity that the North Sea King has so much to do every day. He's worked so hard for our North Sea King for decades, and yet he ended up like this. We must seek justice for him." Another old man stood out and shouted, "That's right, seek justice." As if they had discussed this beforehand, everyone on the city wall shouted. It really did seem like this was the case. It's not just the Scorching Sun sect. Even the Five Poison cultivator of the Five Poison sect has joined in. These two are both LV-10 experts like us. Jin Jizi stepped back unwillingly. Frenzied Sword's expression was also very unpleasant. He was so angry that his body trembled as he said, "Wow, looks like Five Venoms and Flaming Sun sect are determined to stop our holy land from entering North Sea Pass. They're even slandering Yi Fei for causing the North Sea King's death. It's not slander. Speaking of which, I killed the Lord of Beihai's son. The Lord of Beihai was almost killed by me." Yi Fei walked out. With just a few words, Jin Jizi and Wild Blade nearly spat out blood. Wasn't Yi Fei's words just giving the enemy an excuse to oppose him? Everyone present was a warrior. When they heard Yi Fei's words, everyone was stunned. No one had expected Yi Fei to admit it directly. "It's you. Did you really kill the king of Beihai?" Both the old devil and Five Poisons were ecstatic. They exchanged a smug look and felt that Yi Fei was too stupid and inexperienced. Such a naive kid wanted to become the North Sea Sword King? This was simply a joke. Some of the elders from the Flaming Sun sect and Five Venoms sect were already mocking Yi Fei. However, there were even more people who continued to act according to what they had discussed beforehand and began to curse at Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, you're too ambitious. Not only did you kill the king of Beihai, but you also want to take over our North Sea Pass. Even if you have a title from His Majesty, we will never agree." "That's right. North Sea Pass belongs to Beiyang. It doesn't belong to you country bumpkins from the North Sea. Get out of North Sea Pass. The person who killed the king of Beihai doesn't deserve to be the king of North Sea Pass." Frenzied Sword and Jin Jizi were really anxious when they heard the curses of countless people on the city wall. "Hey Yi Fei, you're still too young and impulsive. How can you admit to something like this? Isn't this giving the enemy an excuse to attack us? Why can't I admit it? I did kill the king of Beihai, but that was because he wanted to kill me first. He was unlucky to be killed by the flood dragon. As for these noisy old dogs, even if they join forces to attack me, so what? As Yi Fei spoke, his body faintly revealed a domineering aura. After all, he was no longer the weak warrior he used to be. Since this group of people was determined to oppose him entering North Sea Pass, any superfluous words would be futile. In that case, there was only one path left. Whoever wants to avenge the king of Beihai, step forward. Today, I'll fight with you. Yi Fei stood with his hands behind his back, his body surging with an astonishing battle and killing intent. After all, this was the world of warriors. Compared to negotiating with this group of people, a battle was more direct. Jin Jizi and Frenzied Sword were completely stunned. Yi Fei actually wanted to challenge all the enemies in North Sea Pass. This move was too domineering, but also too impulsive. This bastard kid, he thinks he's invincible just because he's ranked first on the Earth list. How can he fight against so many martial kings alone? Frenzied Sword was furious. Jin Jizi's expression was also very ugly. It should be known that North Sea Pass didn't only have 2 10th-level martial kings, 5 poisons and Scarlet Sunday. There was another 10th-level martial king on the city wall who had yet to speak. There were more than 10 martial king experts gathered around. Even if Jin Jizi and Frenzied Sword worked together, they wouldn't be a match for such a powerful force, let alone Yi Fei, who was alone. Yi Fei, what are you trying to do? Jin Jizi said as he was about to step forward with Frenzied Sword. Yi Fei laughed and waved his hand. Elders, don't come up. They're just a bunch of useless people. I can deal with them alone. What a bunch of useless people. Junior, aren't you looking down on us too much? This time, even the last 10th-level martial king on the city wall couldn't stand it anymore. He moved and stood side by side with 5 poisons and Scarlet Sunday. Behind them were more than 20 martial king experts. Obviously, in order to prevent Yi Fei from becoming the sword monarch of North Sea Pass, the sects and clans of North Sea Pass had put in a lot of effort. Kid, you said you wanted to challenge all of us alone? Humph, you overestimate yourself. No matter how strong you are, I don't believe you're stronger than all of us combined. All the martial kings were furious. A terrifying aura locked onto Yi Fei. Yi Fei's expression didn't change. He faced this aura and suddenly took a step forward. He said in a deep voice, "Cut the crap. If you want to fight, let's fight. I can even defeat Lin Tianjiao. Do you think I'm afraid of you old dogs? Besides, even if I can't defeat all of us now, with my talent, I'll definitely reach the peak of Martial King in 3 years at most. I might even become an unrivaled Martial King, or even an unrivaled Sage Ruler. At that time, I'll come and fight with all of you again. Let's see who can stop me then." Boom! Yi Fei took another step forward. This step not only shook the sky, but also the hearts of all the martial artists in North Sea Pass. Who was Lin Tianjiao? He was one of the strongest geniuses in the North region. He was the idol of all the young martial artists in the North region. However, such a person had lost to Yi Fei. Chapter 520. Not giving face. Many cultivators realized in horror that they might have forced Yi Fei to leave now, but if Yi Fei was given a few years to grow to Lin Tianjiao's level. By the time Yi Fei returned, Beihai Pass wouldn't be able to withstand him. Ordinary martial kings like them wouldn't be able to defeat him either. At that time, with how they had offended Yi Fei, it was possible that their clan and sect would be annihilated. Gasp! The North Sea Sword Monarch wasn't someone to be offended so easily. Hearing Yi Fei's words, the expressions of the 20 or so martial kings, who had been lusting after Yi Fei, all changed. Almost at the same time that Yi Fei stepped forward, many of them were so scared that they hurriedly took a few steps back. Then, their faces turned red as they looked at the 3 old men leading the group. "Sect Master, what should we do?" Why don't we join forces and kill the North Sea Sword Monarch to prevent future trouble? Do you want to die? Don't forget who appointed Yi Fei as the North Sea Sword Monarch. Killing Yi Fei would be like slapping the Beiyang King in the face. Do you want us to wipe out our sect now? Damn it, I didn't expect Yi Fei to be so tricky and cunning. But he's right. Even if we chase him away now and don't let him take over Beihai Pass, we'll be the ones in trouble once he grows stronger. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Lin Tianjiao was one of the strongest geniuses in the northern region. His strength was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Even many of the older generation experts were fearful when they mentioned him. Although the martial kings present didn't believe that Yi Fei could defeat Lin Tianjiao, they still knew about the rumors of Yi Fei forcing Lin Tianjiao to leave and taking first place on the earth roll. Suddenly, Qi Yang and 5 Poisons, who had been aggressive and prepared to use force to force Yi Fei, turned pale. They didn't dare to attack, nor did they dare to retreat. They were forced into a dilemma by Yi Fei's empty warning. Qi Yang, it's all your fault. Now we've offended a genius like the North Sea Sword Monarch. Even if we chase him away now, how many years can we stay in Beihai Pass? 5 Poisons, are you blaming me? When we proposed to stop Yi Fei, your 5 Poisons sect was very enthusiastic. Stop arguing, the two of you. Even if the Sword Monarch of the North Sea is a true genius like Lin Tianjiao, it would be too embarrassing for our 3 great sects to surrender just because of a few words from him. The last old man stopped the two from arguing. Nanhua, 5 Poisons, Brother Nanhua Nanhua's Nanhua, the Divine Fist sect's Nanhua. Nanhua smiled bitterly and looked at Yi Fei with fear. After a brief discussion, Nanhua was the one to step forward. She flew to Yi Fei and sighed. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Sword King of the North Sea, you were right. Even if we stop you now, we may not be able to stop you in a few years. However, if you want us to recognize your position, you have to agree to one of our conditions. You don't have the right to talk terms with me. Either you fight or you submit. These are the only 2 options. Yi Fei said coldly. Jean Jizi and Frenzied Blade, who had been worried, gave Yi Fei a thumbs up. They felt that Yi Fei's words were too domineering. The Taishan Holy Land had been weak for so long, and now it could finally stand tall and speak loudly. North Sea Sword Monarch, you. The North Sea Sword Monarch's face was ugly. He had not expected Yi Fei to be so domineering and not give them any face. They did not think that if they gathered so many people to stop Yi Fei, it would be even more excessive. Yi Fei would not be polite to them. Brother Nanhua, don't be rash. The 5 Poisons cultivator saw that things were going to turn ugly. He and Qi Yang smiled bitterly. Seeing that they could not use force against Yi Fei, they had to use a soft approach. Otherwise, if they angered Yi Fei and offended Yi Fei too much, when Yi Fei grew up in a few years, they would have to bear the brunt of Yi Fei's anger. North Sea Sword Monarch, please calm down. We're not negotiating with you, but making a request. Look, since you're in control of Beihai Pass, you should get rid of that troublesome flood dragon for the sake of the people and kill it. Otherwise, we wouldn't dare to open the city gates and let you in. Old Ghost Qi Yang compromised for the time being. Yi Fei looked at the 3 of them with a half-smile. He knew that they did not dare to do it themselves, but they wanted to use the flood dragon to benefit from it. That's what you said. If I kill the flood dragon, all the sects and families in Beihai Pass will have to submit to me, Yi Fei said coldly. He did not reject the proposal. After all, it was not enough to make these powerful sects submit to him. The most important thing was to show them his strength that they could not resist. Of course, as long as the North Sea Sword King can kill the evil serpent, our 3 sects and all the troops in the North Sea Pass will obey the Sword King's orders unconditionally. The 3 sect leaders vowed solemnly, but there was a hint of disdain in their eyes. Obviously, even if Yi Fei could force Lin Tianjiao to retreat, they did not think that Yi Fei could defeat the Flood Dragon. At the same time, they hoped to use the Flood Dragon to teach Yi Fei a lesson. It would be best if both sides were injured. Then, their chance would come. Yi Fei don't agree. That Flood Dragon can even kill the North Sea King. It won't be easy to deal with, Jean Jeezy whispered. It's fine. I just happen to have a grudge with that Flood Dragon to settle. Don't forget, I have a sacred artifact on me. Yi Fei also transmitted his voice. Jean Jeezy and Frenzied Blade were speechless. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They had worried about Yi Fei for so long, but it turned out that they were worried for nothing. Come with me. Yi Fei did not say much. After they reached an agreement, Yi Fei rushed into the sky and flew toward the cold pond where the Flood Dragon was hiding. He's going to kill that Flood Dragon now? Nan Hua was shocked. Hee, we're in for a good show. That Flood Dragon's strength is not what it used to be. Even with the three of us working together, we could only force it to retreat and not kill it. This time, the North Sea Sword King might even be killed by the Flood Dragon. The five-poison cultivator laughed sinisterly. Qi Yang shook his head. He probably won't be killed. After all, Yi Fei is a genius on the same level as Lin Tianjiao. However, he hasn't grown up yet. It's unlikely that he'll die in battle, but it's inevitable that he'll be injured. That's hard to say. Even if Yi Fei is a genius, it's not rare for a genius to die in an accident. The five-poison cultivator's eyes were gloomy, and his smile was even more sinister. Nan Hua and Qiang's eyes also flashed with light. Faintly, they already understood the five poisons freak's intentions. Let's go. Following the orders of the three sect masters, the 20 or so martial kings behind them all followed Yi Fei at their fastest speed and rushed towards the cold pond. However, Yi Fei was too fast. Before the people behind him could catch up, Yi Fei had already appeared above the cold pond. Last time, he couldn't fight back against the rampaging Flood Dragon and could only run. This time, he would not allow it to happen again. Chapter 521. How terrifying! Roar. Following the angry dragon roar, the Flood Dragon hidden in the cold pond roared and charged out. It looked at Yi Fei as if it was looking at a huge enemy. It roared continuously as if it was saying, "You little thief, you dare to come back after stealing my ancestor's dragon body? Give me your life." As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes will turn red. Not to mention, this enemy in front of him was the thief who stole his cold qi and took away his opportunity. It should be known that during the time Yi Fei was away, the Flood Dragon had been dreaming every day, grinding its teeth, just so that when it met Yi Fei again, it would swallow this despicable human thief whole. For this reason, the serpent would often go to the North Sea Pass to cause trouble, causing the sects and clans in the North Sea Pass to be restless. They could only work together to drive the enraged serpent away. The reason why the three sects sent Yi Fei to kill the serpent this time was because they hoped that there would be an expert who could take care of the serpent that was wreaking havoc in the North Sea Pass. Rumble! The icy lake exploded and the serpent rushed out. The serpent had become more ferocious after not seeing it for a while. The horn on its forehead had completely turned into a dragon horn. The serpent opened its huge mouth and shot an icy dragon breath at Yi Fei without saying a word. The terrifying icy qi froze the ground instantly. Hailstones started to fall in the hot weather, as if they wanted to pierce through Yi Fei's body. A serious look flashed across Yi Fei's face. It had only been a year since they last met and the serpent had reached the 10th layer Martial King realm. Its combat strength was almost on par with the invincible Heavenly Kings. No wonder the three sect leaders wanted to use this serpent to deal with me. Unfortunately, I'm not weak either. Battle Demon Golden Body. Yi Fei's body glowed brightly. He was like a golden sun as he soared into the sky and charged at the serpent. The serpent's dragon breath could not stop Yi Fei. Yi Fei raised his sword finger and slashed forward. The serpent's dragon breath was cut in half and a huge crack appeared on the ice on the ground. The 3 sect masters who had rushed over from the back just happened to see this scene. Their eyes widened in disbelief. They were shocked by Yi Fei's terrifying sword chi. He cut the dragon breath in half. Is he really only a 7th layer Martial King realm? The 5 poison cultivator was shocked. Humph. He is indeed Lin Tianjiao. Unfortunately, the serpent's dragon breath is not its dragon chi. The Qiyang old ghost said coldly. Oh no. What's wrong with the serpent? It went berserk. Nan Hua was astonished. The other martial kings saw this and felt that it was indeed the case. They wondered if the serpent had eaten the wrong medicine. A 10th layer martial king was fighting a 7th layer martial king realm. As soon as the serpent saw Yi Fei, it went berserk. Ha ha ha, Jin Jizi, the serpent has gone berserk. If it doesn't kill its enemy, it will not turn back. Are you going to watch Yi Fei die? The 5 poison cultivator suddenly reminded Jin Jizi and the frenzied blade old man. Humph. The 5 poison cultivator, do you think the holy son of the Holy Land is as useless as you? Even if there were 10 more of these serpents, they would not be able to harm the holy sun. Jin Jizi retorted. The frenzied blade old man also kept sneering. He was not worried about Yi Fei at all. This caused the 3 sect masters and all the martial kings present to be shocked. Facing 10 berserk flood dragons, Yi Fei was not afraid at all. Was this a joke? Does he really think he is Lin Tianjiao? A martial king mocked. That's not right. The Northern Sea Sword King is actually suppressing the serpent. Some martial kings noticed the situation in the sky and could not help but exclaim. Everyone looked at the scene in the sky with incomparable shock. Facing the berserk serpent, even a 10th layer martial king realm expert would be scared out of his wit. But what did they see? They saw a golden figure punching the serpent in the sky. Roar, roar, roar. The serpent's furious roars could be heard everywhere. It was furious. Its huge claws, teeth, and even horns were all aimed at Yi Fei. But the terrifying thing was that the human in front of it was like an indestructible diamond. No matter how the serpent attacked, it was unable to harm Yi Fei. On the other hand, every time Yi Fei punched out, there would be a rumbling sound. Wherever he punched, the scales of the serpent would crack and a huge bloody hole would appear on its body. The blood of the serpent fell from the sky like rain. The frenzied blade old man and Jin Jizi frowned. That was the blood of the serpent, which was very beneficial to cultivators. Yi Fei, my little ancestor, can you stop playing with it? If you continue fighting like this, how much blood will you lose? The frenzied blade old man was the most heartbroken. With so much blood, it was enough for him to refine another top-quality serpent slash for his disciple Yan Bei. What? Yi Fei is actually playing with the serpent? The frenzied blade old man's words shocked the 3 sect leaders once again. The other martial kings also looked at Yi Fei with strange expressions. It was obviously a 10th martial king realm serpent, but in front of Yi Fei, it did not even have the strength to fight back. Yi Fei only activated the war demon golden body. His physical strength was enough to crush the serpent. With the strength of the war demon golden body, the serpent was instantly disoriented and could not find its nest. Roar. The flood dragon was extremely cunning. Seeing that its strongest dragon claw was unable to tear through Yi Fei's golden body defense, it could only sullenly charge towards the ground from the sky with anger and fear. It even used its fastest speed to rush down into the cold pond. The serpent did not believe that Yi Fei would dare to rush down into the cold lake to kill it. After all, the serpent was a creature of the water. No matter how strong a human martial artist was, he would definitely not be a match for the serpent in the water. Even so, when they saw that the serpent, which had once run amok in Beihai Pass and forced the 3 sects to join forces, was beaten into hiding by Yi Fei like a dog, the martial kings present all showed great fear in their eyes. The North Sea Sword Monarch is actually so strong. He is only a 7th Martial King Realm Cultivator, and he can beat a 10th Martial King Realm Serpent as if he is playing with a child. Oh no, the sect leader won't really want us to go against the North Sea Sword Monarch, right? There were also Martial Kings who secretly looked at the sect leaders' faces, only to find that the 3 sect leaders' faces were very dark. Originally, they had planned to use the serpent's strength to teach Yi Fei a lesson. They had even planned to make both sides suffer. But now, only fear and shock were left in the hearts of the 3 sect leaders. In his heart, he no longer had any thoughts of going against Yi Fei. This North Sea Sword Monarch is definitely a monster, just like Lin Tianjiao. The 5 Poison Cultivator's voice was trembling as he spoke. He recalled that on the way here, he had been planning to wait for Yi Fei and the serpent to injure each other so that he could take advantage of the situation. He could not help but feel a deep fear in his heart. If Nanhua or the old devil Qiyang told Yi Fei about his plan, his 5 Poison sect might be removed from Beihai Pass tomorrow. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. Suddenly, the 5 Poison Cultivators steeled his heart and knelt down in front of Yi Fei. He bowed deeply and said, "The North Sea Sword Monarch is invincible. The old and decrepit is willing to lead the 5 Poison sect under the Sword Monarch's command. If I have second thoughts, may the heavens and earth destroy me. Old Devil 5 Poison, you cunning old man." Chapter 522. Subduing the Flood Dragon under the stunned gazes of Wild Blade and Jean Jizi, the 3 sect masters and more than 20 Martial King experts all knelt before Yi Fei and swore their loyalty. This was undoubtedly a shocking scene. Who would have thought that the 3 sect masters, who had been unwilling to accept Yi Fei and secretly plotting against Yi Fei, would suddenly change their attitudes and anxiously pledge their loyalty to Yi Fei? But thinking about it, this was inevitable. What was Yi Fei's talent? The 3 sect masters had all seen the battle between Yi Fei and the Flood Dragon. Those who could become sect masters were no fools. They had seen the Flood Dragon, which was extremely troublesome in their eyes, being played by Yi Fei like a punching bag. If they didn't surrender now and work hard to repair their relationship with Yi Fei, once Yi Fei grew into the second Lin Tianjiao, they wouldn't have a chance to rely on him. Sigh, who would have thought that the problem at Beihai Pass would be solved so easily? I thought we would have a big battle and show off the power of our Taishan Holy Land. Wild Blade was very regretful. As a battle maniac, he felt uncomfortable without a fight. Jean Jizi was very shocked. He stared blankly at the sky. What is Yi Fei doing? Is he planning to enter the cold pond? Cold pond? That's impossible. That cold pond is extremely cold. Even a 10th layer Martial King would be frozen if he went in. Even if he is the North Sea Sword King. Rumble! Accompanied by a huge wave, the fleeing Flood Dragon and the pursuing Yi Fei turned into 2 beams of light and charged into the cold pool one after the other. The North Sea Sword King really rushed in. The Flood Dragon's battle strength is doubled underwater. Qiyang and Nanhua were very shocked. As expected of the North Sea Sword King. Even that Lin Tianjiao is only SOSO. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and was the first to pledge my loyalty to the North Sea Sword King. The 5 Poisons cultivator wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He was even more afraid of Yi Fei now. Because the temperature of the cold pond was too low, none of the Martial Kings present had the ability to hide in it. Thus, the group could only surround the cold pond and wait quietly. Jean Jizi and Wild Blade were even more anxious. They were afraid that something would happen to Yi Fei. Of course, they were so anxious that they didn't expect that Yi Fei would not only did he not feel any discomfort after entering the cold pond, but a layer of mysterious scales quickly appeared on his body. The scales immediately allowed Yi Fei. He could move freely in the water, the cold qi and the cold waters of the cold pond. Roar! The flood dragon that was hiding in the water also turned around at the first moment. It wanted to come back and teach Yi Fei a lesson. It might not be able to defeat this abominable human in the sky, but in the water, it was the flood dragon clan's world. No matter how strong a human was, it had no need to be afraid. The huge flood dragon's tail swayed, and huge waves rolled in the water, forming an invisible killing force that slammed forward. Good timing. I haven't tested the might of the ancient beast mark on me yet. Let me test it on you. Boom. After the transformation, Yi Fei lost his war demon golden body. However, Yi Fei was still not afraid. He had a feeling that the scales armor on his body might be even more terrifying than the war demon golden body's defense. Thus, Yi did not hesitate to throw out a punch. He punched forward and collided heavily with the flood dragon's dragon tail. As expected, Yi Fei's fist was not injured at all. The scales armor on his body gave him the perfect protection. The pitiful flood dragon was beaten up like a dog by Yi Fei in the sky. It had escaped into the cold pond with great difficulty. It thought that it would be able to kill Yi Fei once it returned to the main battlefield. In the end, it was still suppressed by Yi Fei. Roar, roar, roar. The flood dragon's angry, shocked, and fearful roars resounded throughout the water. Seeing that it was not a match for Yi Fei even though it was best at water battles, the flood dragon's claws began to tremble in fear. It was not afraid of being killed by Yi Fei. Instead, it felt an extremely terrifying pressure from Yi Fei's scales armor. It was this pressure that made the flood dragon, who was good at water battles, feel weak and numb in front of Yi Fei. It could not even use 50% of its combat strength. Yi Fei naturally felt the flood dragon's weakness. He immediately stopped beating the flood dragon in dissatisfaction. He then pointed at the flood dragon and scolded, "What's wrong with you, flood dragon? You should have increased your combat strength after returning to the water. Why are you not as strong as when you were fighting in the sky? Could it be that you are tired? Let's stop for a while and wait for you to recover before we continue fighting." With that, Yi Fei really stopped attacking. He sat cross-legged in the deep pool and waited for the flood dragon to recover its strength. Hearing these words and seeing Yi Fei's calm and composed movements, the flood dragon could no longer hold back its tears. The serpent dragon finally could not hold it in any longer. 2 drops of dragon tears rolled down its cheeks. The serpent dragon was not stupid as it was able to reach the 10th layer Martial King realm. When it saw the noble and mysterious scales on Yi Fei's body, it was stunned. Finally, the flood dragon made a decision. It rolled its belly and realized that it could not defeat Yi Fei, nor could it escape. It did not want to die, so it could only submit to Yi Fei. "Damn, you've actually submitted to me." Yi Fei was shocked. He only wanted to use the flood dragon to practice the use of his beast mark. In the end, the flood dragon actually submitted to him. Yi Fei was speechless. The man and the flood dragon looked at each other. The more they looked at each other, the more the flood dragon could feel the fear and pressure from Yi Fei's scales armor. In front of Yi Fei, who was covered in scales armor, the flood dragon felt as weak as a loach. The flood dragon even suspected that Yi Fei might not be a human, but a divine dragon that had descended to the mortal world. Roar, roar! The flood dragon did not dare to be careless. It quickly shrunk its body and kept bowing to Yi Fei, hoping that Yi Fei would forgive its offense. This time, it was Yi Fei's turn to be in a difficult position. He expected the flood dragon to resist, but he did not expect it to submit. This was a bit difficult. "You really want to submit to me?" Roar. "How do I know that you are sincere? What if you betray me after you go out or when I'm not around?" Yi Fei said coldly. The flood dragon was also dumbfounded. It did not know how to continue communicating with Yi Fei. At this time, the little girl crawled out of the beast mark and waved her hands. Yi Fei's eyes lit up. "Xiao Qiao, do you have a solution?" "Xiao Qiao? The flood dragon widened its big eyes and looked at the little girl who came out of the beast mark in shock. With its knowledge, of course it knew that this was an extraordinary spiritual item. In the end, Yi Fei actually treated it as a blade of grass? Naturally, the flood dragon looked at Yi Fei with even more fear. Xiao Qiao also rolled her eyes in dissatisfaction. She was too lazy to fight with Yi Fei. She opened her mouth and inhaled. Whoosh! The chilly air that filled the entire cold pond was absorbed by the little girl with a casual breath. Then, the little girl patted her bulging belly in distress and waved her hand at the flood dragon, indicating for it to pass. It was strange. The flood dragon had always been known for its cruelty. When it felt the little girl's spiritual item aura, it actually swam over hesitantly. It was afraid that its movements would be too big and hurt the little girl. The little girl was very satisfied with the flood dragon's actions. She even patted the flood dragon's head as if she was patting a pet. Finally, she drew a strange symbol on the flood dragon's forehead. The flood dragon roared excitedly. The symbol on its forehead suddenly turned into a stream of light and entered Yi Fei's beast mark. Greetings, Master. I have offended you in the past. Please forgive me. The flood dragon's voice sounded in Yi Fei's mind. Chapter 523. Wang Bai's letter. The changes in the cold pond couldn't be hidden from the many martial king realm masters who were waiting outside. It's strange. The chilly energy in the cold pond is disappearing rapidly. Haha. This flood dragon is hard to deal with because the chilly energy in the cold pond is too strong. Now that the chilly energy is gone, we can all go down. No. The evil flood dragon is coming out. Everyone, spread out and trap it with all your strength. Wait for His Highness the Sword King to come out and kill it. Seeing a huge shadow quickly emerging from the cold pond, the three faction masters who were eager to repair their relationship with Yi Fei immediately ordered their masters to stop the flood dragon. But soon, the martial king realm masters of the three factions were all dumbfounded. The evil flood dragon was coming out, but why was His Highness the Sword King standing on its head? Roar! The flood dragon, having survived the disaster, circled in the sky excitedly and allowed Yi Fei to stand on its head without attacking. Not only were the three faction masters dumbfounded, but Jin Jizi and Frenzied Sword Elder also opened their mouths in shock. Saint, you and the flood dragon are... Yi Fei slapped his head and flew down from the flood dragon. Elders, this flood dragon is quite tactful. It knows to abandon the dark and join the light. It has already submitted to me and will not continue to do evil. What? This evil flood dragon surrendered to the Sword King of North Sea? Tisk tsk. No wonder he's the Sword King of North Sea. I've decided to send the disciples of my faction to serve His Highness the Sword King. Before Yi Fei could say anything, the 5 poison cultivator came over to join in the fun. The Nanhua faction master and Qiyang old ghost gritted their teeth and hurried over to visit Yi Fei. They even strongly requested to send the best disciples of their factions to the Sword King Mansion to serve Yi Fei. If Yi Fei didn't agree, they would have a hard time with Yi Fei. With the surrender of the 3 factions, Beihai Sea Pass was still under the instigation of some people, but it only took a little more time. 3 months later, the entire Beihai Pass was dominated by the Sword Mansion alone. The Taishan Holy Land had successfully entered the Beihai Pass and established a connection with the Beiyang Kingdom. With the help of the 3 major sects, Tianyun Wufu was also re-established in Beihai Pass and recruited disciples. Of course, the family Yi was the best developed. Yi Fei asked people to dig a big pond in the Sword Master Mansion and raised the subdued flood dragon as a pet. He even gave it a nice name, Little Black. Yi Fei felt that the flood dragon liked this name very much because when he gave it the name Xiao He was so touched that it cried out on the spot, causing the entire Beihai Pass to rain heavily for an entire day. Of course, Yi Fei was most concerned about the development of family Yi. With the help of 100 Earth Spirit elixirs, the family Yi, including Yi Jian, Yi Bufan, Yi Chao, and Zhou Guang, had given birth to 100 masters with Earth-level talent. Yi Fei believed that as long as these masters grew up and broke through to martial venerables and martial lords, the strength of the entire family Yi would become even more powerful. 3 months later, something that made Yi Fei even happier happened. Sword Maniac Elder finally decided to send Jing Wushou, Shi Feng, Luo Shi, and other elites of the Taishan Holy Land to Beihai Pass to help Yi Fei manage the affairs of the mansion. The 10th prince and Gu Man returned to their respective countries to persuade their father to give up the throne. Yi Fei vaguely felt that with the emergence of Wu Jun in the North Sea, it was no longer suitable for this small place to have many small countries. The most urgent thing for the North Sea now was to eliminate the boundaries of these small countries and completely unite the North Sea. Only in this way could the North Sea and the Taishan Holy Land become stronger. In the Sword Master Mansion, Yi Fei was instructing the disciples of the family Yi to cultivate martial arts. Sect Master Qiyang, what did you say? Someone gave you a letter and said it was written by an old friend of mine? Suddenly, Old Devil Qiyang walked in with a letter. Seeing Yi Fei's puzzled look, Old Devil Qiyang was even more puzzled. What's wrong? Isn't this letter from your Highness's friend? That's strange. That person clearly said that his name was Wang Bai. Wang Bai. Could it really be a letter from Wang Bai? But why didn't he come in person? Yi Fei was shocked. In the years that Wang Bai had been away, he had guessed Wang Bai's identity more than once. He had also sent people to inquire about Wang Bai, but they had all come up empty-handed. It was as if Wang Bai didn't exist. No one had heard of his name and no one knew where he was. Unexpectedly, Wang Bai had sent someone to deliver a letter. Yi Fei couldn't wait to open the letter and read it. However, the first sentence almost made Yi Fei vomit blood. Don't even think about looking for me. I'm just a legend. Legend my ass. I've been missing for so many years and you're done with just this sentence. Yi Fei was speechless. If it wasn't for the fact that this handwriting was Wang Bai's, he would have torn the letter apart. Wait, tear it apart. There was an extra layer in the letter. Yi Fei carefully shook the letter and a palm-sized piece of animal skin fell out. It was stained with some unknown gray blood. Looking at the gray blood stain, Yi Fei couldn't help but shudder. Why did this blood stain give him such a terrifying feeling? Old Devil Qiyang actually started to tremble when the animal skin fell out. He couldn't withstand the strange aura of the gray blood at all. Yi Fei's expression became more and more serious. Wang Bai couldn't have given him this animal skin for no reason. There must be something wrong with this thing. Sect Master Qiyang, do you still remember what the person who asked you to deliver the letter looked like? Where is he now? Yi Fei asked in a deep voice. Your Highness Sword Monarch, that person is in his 50s and is wearing a gray robe. As for his realm, I couldn't sense it. He left for the West Gate after giving me the letter. I couldn't catch up with him no matter how hard I tried. Qiyang the old ghost said, feeling extremely ashamed. At this moment, how could he not know that the person who wrote him the letter was definitely an otherworldly expert? Yi Fei was stunned when he heard this. He's in his 50s? Could it not be Wang Bai? But why did he ask this person to deliver the letter to me? No, I have to ask him clearly. Yi Fei tore the void open with his bare hands and stepped out of the Sword Monarch mansion. He had already left the Beihai Pass. Just as he was about to head to the West Gate to search for clues, suddenly, an inexplicable sense of danger hit him. Who is it? Yi Fei was shocked. After half a year of reorganization, the entire Beihai Pass was now firmly under the control of the Sword Monarch mansion. He didn't expect that someone would secretly follow him when he just left the Sword Monarch mansion. If it wasn't for Xiao Chao's warning in the beast mark, he wouldn't have noticed it at all. It seems that after being Lord Taiping for half a year, my vigilance has been lowered a lot. Yi Fei secretly shook his head. He saw that the person hiding in the dark didn't show himself. He simply followed Xiao Chao's instructions and rushed into the sky not far away. Sky Demon Kill. Boom. A huge demon fist tore the void open and almost shattered the world. How is it possible? You're just a junior in the 8th Martial King realm. How could you find my hiding place? Chapter 524. The Blood Demon Great Commander. Under the illumination of this scarlet ball of light, even the sage-grade martial technique, Heavenly Demon Kill, was not a match for it. Under the scarlet light, the huge demonic fist was completely melted away, not leaving behind any trace of quintessence. Blood Red Light, a technique of the Blood Demon sect? Yi Fei retreated cautiously as he looked at the man who had appeared in the sky. This person's face was like a devil's. His upper body was naked, and the blood vessels on his body were constantly twisting and glowing. It was as if what was hidden in each blood vessel wasn't blood, but a terrifying murderous energy. Humph, you brat. Since you know the reputation of my blood demon sect, why did you still kill Blood Yiksha? The person shouted as his cold gaze locked onto Yi Fei. Yi Fei found it funny. It was clearly Blood Yiksha who wanted to kill him first, but this person's tone made it sound like he was denouncing him. Alright, I admit that you people from the Blood Demon sect are like ghosts that won't leave. You're like flies that can't be chased away. However, when it comes to reputation, do you think, a rat, that everyone in the central region is worthy of that reputation? If you have the ability, don't come to our northern region to show off. Scram back to the central region. Yi Fei shouted. The Blood Demon sect had repeatedly tried to assassinate him for no reason. Even a clay figurine would get angry, let alone Yi Fei. These words immediately made the Blood Demon Great Commander stomp his feet in anger. He pointed a trembling finger at Yi Fei, wanting to tear this brat's mouth apart. You brat, I originally wanted to take you in as a blood slave because you had some talent. But now I've changed my mind. I'll make you wish you were dead. Remember, the one who will kill you is me, the Blood Demon Great Commander. Blood Demon Great Commander? Damn, where did this Blood Demon Church get so many experts? Any one of them is either a martial king or an invincible martial king. Yi Fei felt the aura emitted by this person. How could he not know that this Blood Demon Great Commander was not only a 10th level martial king, but also a true invincible martial king, like the 4 heavenly kings? With his current cultivation level, Yi Fei did not have to worry about an ordinary 10th level martial king. However, he did not have much confidence in facing an unrivaled martial king who had surpassed the 10th level. Hold on, you were sent by the Bai family. Has the Bai family already joined the Blood Demon sect? Yi Fei asked in a low voice as he continued to back away. Humph, brat, do you think I will tell you? Not only did you kill Blood Yiksha, you also have the aura of consuming blood Bodhi. You deserve to die. This Blood Demon Grand Commander was truly formidable. Yi Fei had refined the blood Bodhi a year ago, but this person had seen through it with a single glance. His expression was unprecedentedly solemn. Before Yi Fei could come back to his senses, rumble! A terrifying blood cloud suddenly appeared above his head. This blood cloud was extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of a few miles. Great void steps. Yi Fei was not stupid enough to fight an invincible martial king alone. He snorted coldly and tore open the void with his bare hands to return to the northern sea pass. Who would have thought that when he used the great void steps, he would meet with a huge barrier, and he would not be able to leave the area covered by the blood clouds. What's going on? Yi Fei's expression changed completely. If he could not leave the blood cloud, he could not return to the northern sea pass to seek help from the city. He could only face an invincible martial king alone. A trace of fear appeared in Yi Fei's heart. Great satisfaction flashed across the Blood Demon Grand Commander's face. He looked at Yi Fei disdainfully and said, "Kaka, in order to deal with you, I've investigated you for half a year. Do you think I don't know that you've learned the Shang clan's great void steps? TSK, that's an emperor-level martial art that the Shang clan doesn't teach outsiders. You brat, how did you learn it? I really don't know what kind of luck you have." At this point, the Blood Demon Grand Commander looked at Yi Fei with a trace of jealousy and greed in his eyes. He deliberately paused and looked at Yi Fei like a cat playing with a mouse. Yi Fei naturally understood the Blood Demon Grand Commander's intention. He could not help but curse inwardly. This old demon is really shameless. He probably wants the Great Void Steps and wants me to give it to him. It's not that easy. Sky Destroyer Sword. Yi Fei roared angrily. Since he could not teleport out, he might as well use his sword to tear open the blood cloud. A huge black hole appeared above Yi Fei's head, and he grabbed it with his bare hand. The black hole suddenly turned into a huge sword-shaped crack and slashed towards the sky. Rumble! The blood cloud churned like boiling water. The Blood Demon Grand Commander was shocked. For the first time, his expression turned serious. It's actually the Great Emperor's sword technique? Could it be that you used this sword technique to kill Blood Yiksha? No, even if it's the Great Emperor's sword technique, you can't kill Blood Yiksha. You must have some secrets on you. Hand over your secrets, and I can consider keeping your corpse. The Blood Demon Grand Commander's eyes were cold. His entire body suddenly turned illusory and turned into a blood-red meteor. He ruthlessly crashed into Yi Fei's sword light. Heaven's Burial Stance. Yi Fei did not dare to be careless. He instantly pushed his 70% sword intent to the limit. A pitch-black sword light with a terrifying black radiance slashed forward in an attempt to imprison the Blood Demon Grand Commander's body. Lawless. The Blood Demon Grand Commander shouted coldly. It was unknown what technique he used, but his body suddenly turned illusory. His entire body merged with the boundless blood pool. He actually managed to avoid the imprisoned power of the Heaven's Burial Stance. At the same time, a blood-red python suddenly appeared in the blood cloud. It was ferocious and ferocious. It fiercely bit onto Yi Fei's black sword light. The spatial sword formed by the black hole was completely devoured by the python. The Sky Destroyer sword has actually been broken. Shock flashed across Yi Fei's face. At his level of strength, he already knew that the Great Emperor's sword was not invincible. It also had its flaws. However, it was difficult for an ordinary martial king to discover these flaws. So far, Yi Fei had only seen two people who could break the Sky Destroyer sword. One was Lin Tianjiao, and the other was the Blood Demon Grand Commander. Oh no, I didn't expect this demon to have such terrifying fighting strength that is not inferior to Lin Tianjiao's. Yi Fei couldn't help but exclaim. Yi Fei continuously retreated, looking extremely frightened. It was as if he had been frightened by the Blood Demon Grand Commander. However, secretly Yi Fei was sneering. Yes, with his current strength, he was indeed no match for an invincible martial king. However, it wasn't as if he didn't have anything to rely on. After all, he still had two sacred weapons on him. One was the Phoenix Blood Sword, and the other was the Taboo Armor. As long as he had these two items, he wouldn't be afraid even if Wu Jun, a martial king of the first stage, came over. However, Yi Fei was somewhat hesitant. Although the Phoenix Blood Sword can allow me to fight against an invincible martial king, I'm still not strong enough to kill the Blood Demon Grand Commander. Also, the Taboo Armor can only be used once. If I use it now, I won't have any means to protect myself if I encounter danger in the future. Yi Fei was very hesitant. Just as he was hesitating, the blood cloud in the sky was suddenly blasted apart by a bare hand, revealing the clear sky. Chapter 525. Earth-penetrating bigwig. When this figure appeared, Yi Fei jumped in fright. This was because he could sense an aura that was even more terrifying than the Blood Demon Grand Commander's. Was that Wu Jun's aura? No, this isn't Wu Jun's aura. Yi Fei shook his head fiercely. He had seen titled Wu Jun before. For example, the Sword Maniac Elder and the Northern Ocean King were both titled Wu Jun. They also had Wu Jun's aura. However, their auras wouldn't give Yi Fei such a strong pressure. If the Northern Ocean King's Wu Jun's aura was like a burning torch, then the gray-robed man who suddenly appeared in the sky gave people the feeling that his entire body was burning. Just now, it was this gray-robed man who, with his shocking chi and blood, slapped the terrifying blood cloud that even the Emperor's sword art couldn't handle, was slapped into pieces. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a hint of shock. He quickly dismissed the idea of taking out the Phoenix Blood Sword and the Forbidden Armor. He had a vague feeling that even if he took out these two items, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the gray-robed man's casual attack. Squeak squeak. In the beast mark space, Xiao Chao felt the aura of this gray-robed man. His little face instantly showed a terrified expression. He kept gesturing, urging Yi Fei to run away as fast as possible. Yi Fei couldn't help but feel even more shocked. Seeing Xiao Chao's terrified expression, how could he not know that Xiao Chao must know this gray-robed man? If he guessed correctly, this gray-robed man might be the earth-penetrating bigwig who fought for Xiao Chao in the northern Heavenly King City more than a year ago. He was a super expert of the 11th level of the Martial Saint realm. Titled Wu Jun? How could there be such a powerful titled Wu Jun in the northern domain? Senior, please give us some face and don't interfere with the Blood Demon sex matters. Seeing the gray-robed man in the sky, the Blood Demon Grand Commander, who had been arrogantly toying with Yi Fei like a mouse, was now like a mouse. His body was trembling. He could feel the old man's undisguised coldness and hostility. In his panic, he quickly mentioned the Blood Demon sect. Although the Blood Demon sect was hated by everyone in the central continent, in other regions, especially the northern domain, the Blood Demon sect was very powerful. Unexpectedly, the gray-robed man did not pay any attention to him at all. His cold eyes only sized up Yi Fei. You are Yi Fei. What is your relationship with a person called Wang Bai? Wang Bai. That. Yi Fei's heart stirred as he loudly said. Because when he saw this gray-robed man, he suddenly remembered that the person who sent the letter to the Wang mansion was also a gray-robed man. Thus, Yi Fei decided to make a bold bet. Undoubtedly, he made the right bet. The gray-robed man's expression changed when he heard Yi Fei and Wang Bai call each other brothers. His cold eyes were suddenly filled with fear that didn't match his status. What? You can actually call someone like that brother? So that's how it is. Good. Young man, don't be afraid. I'm not shy of the southern domain. I'm a martial saint of the 11th level. I don't mean you any harm. Na Chai put away his indifference and suddenly looked at Yi Fei with an amiable expression. In order to prove his sincerity, he even pointed at the Blood Demon Great Commander and said, "Little friend Yi Fei, how do you plan to deal with this person?" "I'll do as you say, senior." Yi Fei's expression didn't change. But he was very nervous. Na Chai was the martial saint of the 11th level, the martial saint of the southern domain who fought for Xiao Chao. Such a super expert could sweep the entire northern domain. If he found out that Yi Fei had the Ganoderma doll with him, as you wish. Na Chai could feel that Yi Fei was very nervous, but he didn't think too much about it. He just thought that Yi Fei was frightened by the aura of the martial saint of the southern domain. He immediately retracted his aura and pointed at the Blood Demon Commander. No! The Blood Demon Commander despaired. When he heard that the gray-robed man was a martial saint of the southern domain, he was so scared that his legs trembled. But it was useless. With just a point of his finger, the powerful Blood Demon Commander's body exploded into ashes. He couldn't be any more dead. This made Yi Fei even more terrified. Even an invincible martial king could be killed with a single point of his finger. If this gray-robed man were to make a move on him— no, he definitely couldn't let this happen. He had to immediately show his stance. Therefore, Yi Fei quickly stepped forward and thanked him loudly. "Thank you for saving my life, Senior. I'll definitely report this to my elder brother, Wang Bai." The gray-robed man looked deeply at Yi Fei. He didn't fall for it. Instead, he said coldly, "Brat, don't try this on me. With your little strength, how can you casually talk to such an existence? I said that I wouldn't do anything to you, so I definitely won't go back on my word." Then, Senior's return means. Yi Fei was a little confused. It seemed that the gray-robed man had some complaints about Wang Bai. "Humph, I returned because that existence calculated that a disaster might befall you in 3 years. He specially asked me to send you a letter and give you some pointers," Na Chai said. "Give me pointers? Senior, you've met my elder brother, Wang Bai. Where is he? Is he doing well?" Yi Fei called him elder brother, Wang Bai, very smoothly. Even though he knew that Yi Fei was bluffing, Na Chai's face still twitched. He looked at Yi Fei and hesitated for a while. A faint trace of fear flashed across his face. Na Chai shook his head with an ugly expression and said, "I'm sorry, I don't have any memories of that existence. I only remember that when I risked my life to barge into the northern region 3 years ago, I was unconscious for a period of time. Then, the memory of sending you a letter appeared in my mind. Now that I've delivered the letter, my mission can be considered completed. I can finally leave this damned northern region." As he spoke, Na Chai had already tidied his clothes. He ignored Yi Fei's shocked expression and knelt down in the air. His face flushed red, he shouted toward the sky, Wang Bai, you're the most handsome." He shouted, but there was no response. Na Chai's face turned red with anger. He resisted the urge to vomit and shouted again, Wang Bai, you're the most handsome. Wang Bai is the most handsome person in the world." "What?" Before Na Chai finished shouting, Yi Fei was already in a daze. Of course, Na Chai was the most embarrassed. He was a mighty figure, but he was forced to do such a shameful thing in front of a junior. After shouting 3 times, Na Chai was about to vomit blood. Fortunately, after Na Chai shouted 3 times, a series of mysterious runes suddenly appeared on his body. He turned into a stream of light and dissipated in the sky. Chapter 526. The world is big. Shut up. You can't say a word about what happened today. Do you understand? Sensing that the runes controlling him had finally disappeared, the first thing Na Guai did was stand up angrily and stare fiercely at Yi Fei. Yi Fei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He could only pretend not to understand Na Guai and ask, "Senior, what are you talking about? I don't remember what happened just now." "Boy, you know what's good for you." Na Guai barely suppressed his anger. Then he remembered something and said coldly, "I almost forgot. That existence also said that you must go to the land abandoned by the heavens." "What? The land abandoned by the heavens? Wang Bai also knows about the land abandoned by the heavens? Who are you, Wang Bai? Why are you helping me?" Yi Fei was shocked. A terrifying thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Could it be that when Wang Bai left the Taishan sacred ground, he had already calculated my future and arranged everything in advance? If that was the case, then this brother of his was too heaven-defying. Seeing Yi Fei's uncertain expression, Na Chai didn't need to ask to know what Yi Fei was thinking. He immediately shook his head in annoyance and said, "Kid, I advise you not to think about it. Even a powerful figure like me was forcefully pulled into the northern region before I could see that existence. I was even controlled for 3 years. What can you, a martial king kid, think about? Hey, didn't you enter the northern region by yourself in search of a treasure?" Yi Fei probed calmly. Na Guai looked at Yi Fei in surprise. You know that I came here in search of a treasure? Ahem, the battle between two powerful figures on the southern mountains has spread throughout the entire Beiyang country. If the two of you weren't here in search of a treasure, I can't think of any other reason, Yi Fei said ambiguously. I see. Na Guai was relieved. He didn't have time to explain further to Yi Fei. He just nodded slightly and said, Boy, I've delivered the letter. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. For the sake of that existence, I won't make things difficult for you. You can go. I can't go back to Nanjiang. I can only cross the ocean and go to Zhongzhou. With that, Na Guai turned to leave. Hearing that Na Guai was going to Zhongzhou, Yi Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly stopped him and said, Senior, please wait. If you want to go to Zhongzhou, can you help me deliver a letter? How dare you? Junior, don't push your luck. Nasai was furious. It was one thing to be inexplicably controlled by Wang Bai to deliver a letter, but Yi Fei also wanted him to deliver a letter. What did these two people mean by this? They actually treated him, Che Di, as a messenger? However, after his anger subsided, Na Chai's heart skipped a beat. He curiously asked, Are you going to reply to that existence? If so, this old man can do it for you. Cough cough, it's not Wang Bai. Yi Fei was very depressed. He didn't even know Wang Bai's identity or where he lived. What the hell was he supposed to deliver a letter for? I'm delivering a letter to my little sister. My little sister has been taken to the Star Moon Holy Land. If Senior is on the way, Yi Fei said cautiously. After all, he was asking for help. Most importantly, the one doing this was an earth-shattering bigwig, a super expert of the 11th level of the Martial Saint realm. That had slightly angered him. Yi Fei might be annihilated. Na Guai was shocked upon hearing this. What did you say? You have a little sister who has joined the Star Moon Holy Land? How is that possible? Isn't it said that you can't leave the northern domain until you reach Wujun? Senior, what do you mean? Yi Fei was very shocked upon hearing this. Hey, didn't your seniors tell you that the northern domain is different from other domains? Outside martial practitioners of Wujun and above cannot enter. Of course, if your northern domain martial practitioners don't reach Wujun's level, they can forget about leaving. Na Guai explained calmly. He couldn't help but look at Yi Fei in a higher light. After all, Yi Fei was able to make friends with a mysterious expert like Wang Bai and had a little sister who could join the famous Star Moon Holy Land in the central continent. This made Na Guai a little more patient to talk to Yi Fei. Otherwise, a ground-shattering almighty would be able to do whatever he wanted. How could he speak so much to a mere martial king like Yi Fei? Na Guai didn't explain too much. Instead, he looked at Yi Fei sympathetically and said, Boy, it's not that this old man wants to discourage you, but since your sister has come to the central continent, her talent is definitely shocking. Your talent isn't bad and can be considered a genius in the northern domain. However, in our southern border, your talent can only be ranked at the middle level. As for the central continent, there are monsters everywhere. Your talent can only be ranked at the bottom. At best, you're just an ordinary genius. Yi Fei was very unconvinced. Don't tell me that I can't go to the central continent because my talent is low? Na Guai's words were as hateful as the woman who took his sister away. You're still not convinced? Do you think that you're amazing for breaking through to the 8th layer martial king realm at such a young age? Na Guai looked at Yi Fei with disdain and attacked him mercilessly. Then let this old man tell you. In our southern border, the most ordinary genius is at least in the 8th layer martial king realm at your age. If you have a little talent, it's not impossible for you to step into the Saint King realm. Saint King realm. Yi Fei's heart shuddered violently. Indeed, since he had forced Lin Tianjiao to back off, he had thought that he could be on par with the strongest geniuses of the northern region. However, after hearing Na Guai's words, he finally realized how terrifying it was to have a genius stronger than him in this vast world. While he was still feeling joyful about breaking through to the 8th layer Martial King realm in half a year's time, even the most ordinary genius of the southern border had a cultivation similar to his. What about the central continent? What about the geniuses of the central continent? Yi Fei suddenly bowed deeply toward Na Guai and asked humbly. Na Guai glanced at Yi Fei in astonishment and nodded slightly. Not arrogant or impatient. Kid, you have a good temperament. Unfortunately, you don't have a unique physique. Second-grade Tian ranked Martial King realm is your limit. However, in the central continent, a Tian ranked Martial King realm talent is only the beginning of becoming a genius. When I was young, I was the same as you. Young and impetuous, I went to the central continent with the intention of making a name for myself. Unfortunately, when I arrived at the central continent, I realized what it means to be a frog at the bottom of a well, and overestimate one's capabilities. The central continent is too powerful. It's normal for the geniuses there to break through to the Martial Emperor realm from the Martial realm in a year's time. There are even more powerful monsters. It's said that when they were born, they were already in the Martial King realm. A portion of their ancestors were extremely powerful super monsters. When they were children, they had already reached the level of Martial Lord, or even the level of Absolute Earth Almighty. Compared to them, no matter if it's you or me, we can only raise our heads and look up. Young man, work hard. In this life, we are destined to not be able to compare to those monstrous geniuses in the central state. What we can do is to honestly take every step we take. Maybe in 100 years, maybe even longer, when you break through to my level and become an almighty, maybe you can go to the central state, be an ordinary warrior, and enjoy your life. Chapter 527. Saint Bodhi, young man, maybe we can meet again in the Zhongzhou Plains in 100 years, provided that you don't die. Na Chai shook his head and soared into the sky. Like a shooting star, he tore open the void and dashed out of the northern region and into the vast ocean. Watching Na Chai leave, Yi Fei was unable to calm down for a long time. Only after 100 years, and becoming an absolute master, would he be able to gain a foothold in the Zhongzhou Plains? The power of the Zhongzhou Plains finally made Yi Fei realize how insignificant and weak he was in the world of martial arts. She seemed to have sensed Yi Fei's disappointment. Xiao Chao quietly ran out from her hiding spot and patted Yi Fei's head like a little adult. She comforted Yi Fei by patting his head as if she was patting a pet. Yi Fei suddenly felt depressed. How could Xiao Chao comfort him like this? But Yi Fei was not in the mood to argue with a little girl. After all, Yi Fei would never give up until he had tried, and risked his life. So what if the Zhongzhou Plains is powerful? If I want to go, no one can stop me. 100 years is too long. In 3 years at most, I will become a titled battle pet warrior, Wu Jun. Then, I will go to the Zhongzhou Plains and find my sister. Yi Fei clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with terrifying determination. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao sat on Yi Fei's shoulder and patted Yi Fei's head, comforting Yi Fei and telling Yi Fei to work harder. Yi Fei did not notice that when the Zhongzhou Plains were mentioned. A rare look of melancholy appeared on Xiao Chao's young face. But soon, Xiao Chao became as cheerful as Yi Fei. She could not wait to point to a place in the distance and babbled something. Yi Fei had known Xiao Chao for a long time. Soon, he understood what Xiao Chao meant. Needless to say, the dead blood demon commander must have some kind of treasure on him to make her so excited. However, Xiao Chao, are you sure that person has some kind of treasure on him? It was not that Yi Fei did not believe Xiao Chao. It was just that the blood demon commander's death was too tragic. An unrivaled Martial King realm expert was killed by a finger-tap shot and his body was blasted into a bloody mist. Blood demon commander. Moreover, Even the Blood Demon Commander's space bag was taken away by Na Chai when he left. Even if this demon really had some kind of treasure on him, how could it escape the eyes of absolute ground? Yi Fei was very doubtful, but he could not bear to stop Xiao Chao's excitement. So, he walked unhurriedly in the direction Xiao Chao was pointing. This made Xiao Chao very anxious. She pulled Yi Fei's ear and grabbed Yi Fei's hair. Then, she began to babble as if she was riding a horse. Yi Fei could not help but feel even more depressed. After all this time, in Xiao Chao's heart, I'm just a horse. Where is Xiao Chao going? After walking forward for a while, Yi Fei found that Xiao Chao's hand was still pointing forward. This finally made him curious. Could it be that the treasure that Xiao Chao discovered wasn't on the Blood Demon Commander's body, but somewhere else? But thinking about it, if this demon really had some kind of treasure on him, how could it escape the eyes of an almighty like Yi Fei? I just don't know what kind of treasure Xiao Chao found. Yi Fei unconsciously began to speed up. Soon, he followed Xiao Chao's directions and arrived at a hidden cave. This cave was very well disguised. The inside had been set up as a secret realm by a 10th-layer martial king. A 10th-layer martial king near Beihai Pass. Could this be the Blood Demon Commander's lair? Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He unceremoniously broke through the secret realm with a punch and walked in. The scene inside gave him a fright. The ground was littered with the corpses of martial king experts. They had all died less than half a year ago. What a blood demon sect! In order to assassinate me, this Blood Demon Commander actually hid in Beihai Pass for half a year. He even secretly killed so many martial king experts. After recovering from his shock, Yi Fei covered Xiao Chao's eyes with his hand and said, "Xiao Chao, don't look." The scene was simply too bloody. Even though Yi Fei had experienced many battles, he still felt a sense of disgust as he looked at the rotting corpses. Xiao Chao was so scared that his face turned pale when he heard Yi Fei's words. He closed his eyes tightly and slipped back into the beast mark, not daring to stay outside any longer. On the other hand, Yi Fei suppressed his disgust and searched for something among the corpses on the ground. In any case, he had dealt with the Blood Demon Church countless times. Since the Blood Demon Commander had killed so many martial king experts, it was most likely to be to nurture the blood bodhi that was unique to the Blood Demon Church. As expected, this blood demon sect is really heartless. There really is a blood bodhi here. This isn't a blood bodhi. Why does it have the aura of the divine path? Yi Fei quickly found a strange plant in the middle of the corpses. Rather than a plant, it looked more like a broad golden Buddha's hand. In the middle of the Buddha's hand, there was a round white fruit. It looked exactly like a blood bodhi, but it was different from the blood bodhi's aura of blood and resentment. This white fruit gave off an auspicious and majestic Buddha's aura. In contrast, the white fruit in the Buddha's hand was as dazzling as a pearl. An hour later, Yi Fei finally found what he was looking for. It was a stone room behind the secret realm. It should be the place where the Blood Demon Commander usually cultivated. In the stone room, Yi Fei found a cultivation manual. Coincidentally, there was information about the white bodhi recorded in it as well. So that white bodhi is called the Holy Bodhi. It's a treasure of the Blood Demon sect that's even more precious than the Blood Bodhi. Usually, only commanders are qualified to guard the Holy Bodhi, Yi Fei said in surprise. According to the manual, there were a total of 12 Holy Bodhi in the Blood Demon sect, each representing one of the 12 heavenly demons. At the same time, the Holy Bodhi had a special characteristic. After absorbing a large amount of blood and resentment, the Holy Bodhi would be contaminated. On the basis of the Holy Bodhi, it would continuously produce impure Bodhi like the Blood Bodhi. It was this impure Bodhi that formed the Blood Demon sect's bloodiest spiritual medicine, the Blood Bodhi. Every mature Blood Bodhi had the potential to help a cultivator break through to the martial king realm. As one of the 12 commanders of the Blood Demon sect, Their mission was to bring the precious holy Bodhi to various places and hunt down martial king experts. Then, they would use their flesh and resentment to continuously contaminate the holy Bodhi. In this way, they would continuously use the impurities of the holy Bodhi to form evil blood Bodhi, helping the blood demon sect to develop and strengthen. No wonder the blood demon sect was hated by everyone in the central province and was forced to develop in the northern region. I didn't expect the evil blood Bodhi to be produced in this way. I'm afraid even Master didn't expect this. After reading the cultivation manual in his hand, Yi Fei's eyes instantly fixed on the holy Bodhi that was still being contaminated. His eyes became brighter and brighter. Chapter 528. Leave? Of course, Yi Fei could only think about it in his heart. With his terrible flower Dao skills, it would be a miracle if he could keep the spiritual herbs alive, let alone speed up their growth. But he couldn't stop the fact that Xiao Qiao, a flower saint expert, was hiding in Yi Fei's body. The rarest thing was that Xiao Qiao was still a plant. If she could help the spiritual herbs grow faster, then Xiao Qiao was undoubtedly the best candidate. Ahem, Xiao Qiao, let's discuss something. Do me a small favor and I'll take you out shopping when you're free. What do you think? After walking out of the cave, Yi Fei called out Xiao Qiao and acted as if he cared about Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao didn't say anything and only looked at Yi Fei with disdain. Was she like a child who could be easily tricked? But that was shopping. To be honest, it was safe to stay in the beast mark space every day, but Xiao Qiao was also bored. Xiao Qiao began to make gestures again. This time, the gestures were very vivid. Colorful spiritual winds flashed in the air and finally condensed into strings of candied haws. Xiao Qiao didn't say anything and only stared at Yi Fei with her big black eyes. She even bit her little hand as if she was wronged. This time, the gestures were too specific. It was so specific that Yi Fei understood at a glance. Xiao Qiao actually wanted to eat candied haws. Damn! She was a Lingji doll. Could it be that she could eat secular things? Wait, I've never told Xiao Qiao about this before. Why did she suddenly want to eat candied haws? Could it be, did Little Black say something to you? Other than himself, the only other person who knew about Xiao Qiao's existence was his lazy flood dragon, Little Black. Needless to say, this lazy dragon must have led Xiao Qiao astray. Yi Fei suddenly regretted raising a flood dragon for no reason. That guy ate more than all the people in the Sword Prince's mansion combined in one meal. The most important thing was that he was a bad influence on Xiao Qiao. The only thing that made Yi Fei happy was that Xiao Qiao only wanted to eat Tonghulu and not other expensive delicacies. Alright, Tonghulu, right? When we find a mortal city, I'll buy as much as you want. But this holy Bodhi, Xiao Qiao, take a look. Yi Fei took the opportunity to take out the holy Bodhi. Xiao Qiao patted her chest and said confidently, "Leave it to me." Then, she waved her glowing little fists and made a series of gestures. However, the gesture this time wasn't as vivid as the candied hawthorn. Yi Fei stared at it for a long time before he finally understood. Xiao Qiao was saying that it was possible to cultivate the holy Bodhi, but she needed a large amount of spirit stones. The higher the quality, the faster the holy Bodhi would mature. Of course, if Yi Fei was patient, he could wait 180 years for the holy Bodhi to mature quickly. Hearing Xiao Qiao's words, Yi Fei was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. 180 years. He would probably wait until his hair turned white. Xiao Qiao, can't you use spirit stones instead? Yi Fei was very depressed. Xiao Qiao shook her head firmly and spread out her hands, indicating that she couldn't do anything without spirit stones. Damn it, it seems that I have no choice but to go out and train. Yi Fei finally gritted his teeth and decided to leave Sword King Mansion now. After talking with Na Chai, Yi Fei completely understood how big the gap was between him and the geniuses of Zhong Province. If he didn't work hard now, when would he? Most importantly, he needed a lot of spirit stones to cultivate the holy Bodhi. Before the Devil Emperor had left, he had said that the current martial heaven continent was in a state of decline. Spirit stones were a very common cultivation resource in the heavenly devil continent, but they had been completely exhausted for who knew how many years. Those remaining spirit stones had either been excavated from the secret realms of the ancient sages or accidentally passed down from other continents. Martial artists didn't even need enough spirit stones to cultivate, not to mention large amounts of spirit stones to nurture spirit herbs. Now that Yi Fei had obtained a large amount of spirit stones, the only way was to go out and experience all kinds of fortuitous encounters. I remember that the Devil Emperor said that the stronger a martial artist's karmic luck, the greater their chances of obtaining good karmic luck. For example, those monstrous geniuses with the aura of emperors all have great karmic luck. They might have a small chance every 3 days or a large chance every 10 days. As for those monstrous geniuses, it's said that they can casually step on a rock and pick up a precious spirit stone. Thinking of those monstrous geniuses' karmic luck, and then looking at himself, Yi Fei felt even more miserable. He knew that staying in the Sword King mansion would no longer be beneficial to his cultivation base. He immediately returned to the Sword King mansion. Originally, he had wanted to say goodbye to Yi Jian and the others, but thinking about it, that would only increase his sadness. It was better to leave quietly. And so, Yi Fei left behind a letter and told Xiao He to properly protect the Sword King mansion. Yi Fei had already stealthily left the Northern Sea Pass with Xiao Chao, rushing toward the border of the Northern Sea Pass. There's still over 2 years until the heavenly Forsaken Land opens. I can take advantage of this time to go to the other countries of the northern region and look for some spirit stones. Yi Fei was secretly making plans. Just as he was about to bring the holy Bodhi out for training, he was about to leave. In a certain mortal town in the far reaches of the northern region. In this town, every household worshipped a strange statue. This statue looked like a human, but not a human. It looked like a beast, but not a beast. It had a ferocious face, but it had blood-red wings like a beast. It held a steel fork, looked up at the sky, and let out a silent roar. The residents of the town were used to coming here every day to worship the statue and pray for peace. But on this day, something that shocked the entire town happened. For some reason, one of the 12 statues that they worshipped day and night suddenly collapsed. Everything happened too suddenly. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable, and then they panicked. What's going on? Why did the statue collapse? Could it be that we angered Lord Azura and attracted the wrath of God? Lord Azura, please calm down. We pray devoutly day and night without stopping. Roar. After that, everyone was speechless. This was because an extremely furious roar could be heard from the entire town. Who killed one of my great commanders and destroyed the sacred Bodhi's restrictions? Investigate this thoroughly. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must take the sacred Bodhi back. Roar. Following the release of this voice, ferocious figures in blood-red robes with red eyes suddenly appeared in the air of the town and quickly rushed in all directions. In a secret small world under the town, a Wu Jun powerhouse with a terrifying aura was leading hundreds of blood-robed martial kings in fear and trepidation. They knelt in front of a huge blood pool and kowtowed desperately. Young master, please forgive me. This old man has already sent out a large number of people. We will definitely retrieve the lost holy Bodhi as soon as possible. Trash good for nothing. In the northern region, where there are no almighties, you actually lost my most important sacred Bodhi. Immediately send orders to the other captains to stop nurturing the blood Bodhi. Have them send the remaining 11 sacred Bodhi back as quickly as possible. Chapter 529. Western King's Army. In a mortal town at the border of Beiyang country, Yi Fei was wearing ordinary clothes and strolling around the market with a depressed expression. There were commoners and merchants everywhere. Even the warriors who passed by were mostly in the martial Dao realm. Even the martial master realm was very rare. There was no doubt that the strength of this town and the strength of the warriors were very weak. However, the population here was very dense and the business was also very prosperous. Therefore, even if he let Xiao Chao come out to take a breather and sit on his shoulder to eat candied haws, Yi Fei didn't have to worry that someone would discover that Xiao Chao was different. However, the rumbling sound of horse hooves quickly broke the leisurely mood of the two of them. The galloping horses were very fast. Judging from the sound, it was very likely that there were thousands of soldiers and horses passing by. There was no warning before entering the town. To Yi Fei's surprise, the people of the town were already used to it. Seeing that Yi Fei was still letting Xiao Chao ride on his neck and eat candied haws, a kind-hearted old man hurriedly stopped Yi Fei and retreated to both sides of the street. "Young man, don't be rash. The soldiers of the Western King's mansion are coming over. Be careful not to offend them." "Old man, are the soldiers of the Western King's mansion very domineering?" Yi Fei asked curiously. He had seen the Western King before. He was a typical black-hearted and ruthless person. His troops would definitely not fare any better. When the old master heard Yi Fei's words, his face was full of displeasure. He said, "Young man, we don't like what you're saying. The soldiers of the Western King's mansion are all good men. Without them fighting bloody battles on the front lines, how could we have a stable life now? Go, the old and decrepit doesn't want to talk to you anymore." The old man was so angry that he no longer spoke to Yi Fei. Like the rest of the town, he raised his head and looked forward. Yi Fei felt that it was even more strange. Fighting bloody battles? Could it be that there was a war on the Western King's side? The sound of horse hooves was getting closer and closer. The valiant soldiers and horses, with a fierce, murderous aura, quickly galloped through the empty street. No one made a sound. The thousands of war horses were so orderly that they seemed to have become one. Yi Fei was also a little shocked. Sword King Mansion had also trained some troops in the past 6 months. However, compared to the soldiers of the West Prince's residence, the difference was like heaven and earth. When the army passed by, a white-haired old general stood at the side and cupped his fists to the people around him. "Fellow villagers, the army is passing by. Please forgive us for disturbing you." "What are you talking about, General Wang? If it weren't for the soldiers of the West King residence fighting against the vicious beasts all day long, our small town would have been destroyed by the beast tide. We wouldn't have such peaceful days," the people around said. There were also many young martial warriors. They excitedly gathered around and said, "General Wang, the once-in-a-decade beast tide is coming again. Is the West King army still lacking people? Can we join the West King army?" General Wang shook his head and said, "I'm sorry. If you want to join the West King army, you have to be at least a martial grandmaster. Even the soldiers had to be at the martial master realm. Everyone, do your best." After saying that, General Wang also left on his horse. Before he left, he inadvertently glanced at Yi Fei. Yi Fei also returned a smile. He could see that although the West King army was evil and ruthless, the West King army under his control was deeply loved by the people. It could also be seen that the West King army was not too bad. It was worth making friends with him. Yi Fei rubbed Xiao Chao's ponytail on his shoulder. Suddenly, he rose into the air and rushed into the distant sky. "Xiao Chao, hurry up and finish your meal. Then we'll go to the West King city." After flying for about a day, Li Yundong finally came to a stop. Yi Fei had already seen the outline of the West King city. Unlike the other Heavenly King cities, the West King city was more like a heavily guarded military camp. There were soldiers and horses training everywhere. The entire city gave people a kind of awe-inspiring and solemn atmosphere. Entering the city, in addition to the walking soldiers and horses, there were also many martial warriors from all over the country. The martial Grandmaster realm, martial Venerable realm, and martial King realm were not rare. The residents of the city were very welcoming to these martial warriors because these martial warriors were the forces that protected the West King City. Soldiers, you must protect the Heavenly King City this time. I heard that the beast tide this time will be a terrible disaster that happens once in 100 years. Yes, if the West King City is broken, the beast tide that is no longer suppressed will definitely sweep through all the cities and towns behind. Our families and millions of people may die. The martial warriors who had rushed over also chatted and encouraged each other. It could be seen that everyone's fighting spirit was still very high. But in this kind of high spirit, a sad bugle horn suddenly sounded. Hearing this bugle horn, the people who were talking enthusiastically just now suddenly fell silent. The high morale gradually became low. Hundreds of soldiers of the West King Army silently carried a stretcher into the city. On the stretcher lay the body of an old man. It's old General Wang. Someone who recognized the old man suddenly burst into tears. Damn the Northern Plains country. Even old General Wang was killed by them. Many martial warriors could not help but roar in anger. It could be seen that old General Wang had a high prestige in the West King City. His death in battle resonated with many people. Yi Fei also looked at the old man on the stretcher with some shock. He had just met this person yesterday, but today, he had died on the battlefield. Most importantly, old General Wang was not killed by the vicious beasts. There was a terrible palm print on his chest. The palm print had extinguished all his vitality. What's going on? Isn't this place resisting the beast tide? How could a martial king expert be killed? Yi Fei was very puzzled. When the martial warrior standing next to him heard this, he put away his sorrow and said, "Brother, you must be new. You don't know that the beast tide is not our main enemy here in the West King City. The real enemy is the vicious wolf cavalry of the Northern Plains. If it weren't for their interference every time, we wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses every time we resisted the beast tide." Yes, I heard that the Northern Plains country was even more ruthless this time. They actually took advantage of the time when we were resisting the beast tide to send their heavens prides to challenge the martial kings and generals of the West King City. It's just that I didn't expect that even the experienced old General Wang would be killed. Old General Wang's death affected far more than just these martial warriors. It also greatly affected the morale of the people of the West King City. Morale seemed illusory, but on the battlefield, the strength of morale could often determine the outcome of a battle. For example, an army with high morale could often exert double or even several times their physical potential and kill the enemy with blood-soaked words. If morale was low, many times, even the elite soldiers who had been through hundreds of battles would be able to exert less than 50% of their strength. Especially now, when a large number of vicious beasts attacked the city once every 10 years. Once the morale of the West King Army was affected, the losses in the face of the vicious beasts' attack could be imagined. Chapter 530. Taking advantage of a burning house, it seems that I have to make a trip to the West Heaven Palace. Yi Fei sighed. After all, he was now the North Sea Sword King personally conferred by the King of Beiyang Kingdom. Since he had encountered such a thing, he couldn't pretend not to know and just walk away. So Yi Fei came to the West Heaven Palace, intending to meet the West Heaven King. Stop, the West Heaven Palace is an important place. Who are you? Please tell me your name, and let me inform the West Heaven Palace. The guard of the West Heaven Palace was a 10th-level martial venerable. Even in the face of a martial king like Yi Fei, this person's attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. This made Yi Fei think highly of the West Heaven King. This West Heaven King was ruthless, but he really had a way to manage the army. Perhaps this was also the reason why the West Heaven King guarded the border. Please inform the West Heaven King that the North Sea Sword King wants to see the West Heaven King. Yi Fei nodded to the general. The man was so shocked that his mouth was wide open. What, the North Sea Sword King? The #1 master on the Earth list in Beiyang Kingdom. Great, our West King army is saved. Sword King, please wait a moment. I will immediately go in and inform the West Heaven King. The general rushed into the West Heaven Palace excitedly. Yi Fei was a little confused. What did my coming have to do with the West King army? I just needed to pass through here to go abroad. West Heaven Palace, White Tiger Hall. The West Heaven King's face was gloomy. He was discussing with his generals how to deal with the Beast Tide and the Wolf Cavalry of Beiyuan Kingdom. When he heard that Yi Fei had come to the West Heaven King, the West Heaven King was stunned. North Sea Sword King, the heaven-forsaken land will open in 2.5 years. That kid is not cultivating in Beihai Sea, but running around. Dissatisfaction was one thing. After all, Yi Fei's current status was equal to that of the West Heaven King. The West Heaven King still came out as fast as he could. He smiled from afar and said, North Sea Sword King, it's an honor for you to come to my West Heaven Palace. Heavenly King is too courteous. You can just call me Yi Fei. In front of Senior, I am not a Sword King. Yi Fei's attitude was very humble. After having a conversation with Na Chai, Yi Fei had thoroughly recognized his own strength, and his attitude became more humble. The West Heaven King was stunned when he heard this, but he was still very happy when he saw Yi Fei's attitude. Therefore, he also found Yi Fei pleasing to the eye. He immediately invited Yi Fei into White Tiger Hall and sat down. The West Sky King asked curiously, Yi Fei, you came to the West Sky King City at this time. Did His Majesty send you here to help resist the Beast Tide? Yi Fei shook his head and said, His Majesty didn't send me here. I want to leave Beiyang and head to other places in the northern region to train. I just happen to need to pass by here. I see. The West Heaven King was a little disappointed, but he didn't say much. Instead, he warmly invited him. I don't object to you wanting to train. However, there are vicious beasts everywhere outside at this time. Why don't you stay in my West King mansion for a while? It won't be too late to go out after the beast tide subside. I'm afraid there are more than just vicious beasts outside the West Sky King City, Yi Fei suddenly said. The West Heaven King was dumbfounded. How much do you know? The smile on the West Heaven King's face was no longer there. When I came here, I met a very popular general surnamed Wang. He died in battle today, Yi Fei said with some regret. What? Old Wang is dead? Why didn't you report such a big thing? Didn't I say to ignore Duan Lang's provocation? The West Heaven King's face was completely gloomy. He stood up angrily and stared at the group of frightened generals in White Tiger Hall. These generals were all martial king experts, but at this time, they were collectively silent. No one spoke. Yi Fei also looked at the West Heaven King curiously and asked, What's going on? Well, since you know, there's no harm in telling you. You also know that my West Sky King City is located in a dangerous border area. Not only does a terrifying beast tide break out here every 10 years, but it also borders Beiyuan State. And Beiyuan and Beiyang are sworn enemies. The West Heaven King's face showed bitterness. Beiyuan State is ambitious. They have always wanted to occupy the West Sky King City and monopolize the vicious beasts outside the city. Therefore, every time before the beast tide breaks out, the Golden Tribe King of Beiyuan State will send troops and wait for an opportunity to find a flaw in our West Sky King City. But this time, Beiyuan State has gone too far. They actually sent Duan Lang, the second-ranked genius in the country, to challenge our martial king expert. They also forced us to say that if we don't accept the challenge, their army will come to the city and join forces with this beast tide to attack our West Sky King City at the same time. Another one-armed old general stood up and said angrily. Obviously, the West King Army's oppression of Baiyuan State was unbearable. At the mention of Baiyuan State, many generals were so angry that their eyes turned red. Yi Fei was also secretly shocked. Baiyuan State's move was no different from looting a burning house. They knew that the West King Army was busy dealing with the vicious beast's attack and did not dare to go to war with Baiyuan State. They actually came up with such a vicious idea to use their genius to challenge the martial king experts of the West King Army. Does His Majesty know about this? Didn't you ask His Majesty for martial king support? Yi Fei asked. Where did the reinforcements come from? Our Beiyang is the weakest among the 4 nations of the northern region. Not a single genius in our nation is a match for Duan Lang. To be honest, when Duan Lang issued the challenge, His Majesty had already sent a total of 20 10th-level martial kings to support him, but in the end, at this point, the West Heaven King's face was gloomy and he could not continue. But even if the West Heaven King did not say it, Yi Fei knew the result. From the death of old General Wang, he knew that the other 20 10th-level martial kings had probably all been killed by Duan Lang. Doesn't the West King Army have any way to restrain Duan Lang? Yi Fei continued to ask. Of course there is. If I were to take action, I would definitely be able to kill Duan Lang. But the key is that Duan Lang has an old rival, the Golden Tribe King, by his side. My strength is on par with the Golden Tribe King. If I were to take action, the Golden Tribe King would definitely take action. If the Golden Tribe King were to take action, it would be a war between the 2 countries. If there were any other time, I would not be afraid. The key is that the 10-year beast tide is about to begin. The West Heaven King sighed. The generals present were all aggrieved. Yi Fei could understand their feelings. After all, the existence of the Western Heavenly King City was not only to protect the Northern Ocean Kingdom, but also to protect the millions of people behind it. The Northern Ocean Kingdom clearly knew this, yet they still took advantage of the situation to loot the Western Heavenly King City, regardless of the lives of millions of people. Yi Fei could not bear it any longer. West Heaven King, why don't you let me take action and deal with Duan Lang? Yi Fei's face flashed with determination. He thought of the human sage who taught him the Emperor Realm Empty Fist. He was determined to kill the great emperor of the beast tribe at the cost of his own life to protect his people. Yi Fei was not as great as the human sage, but as a human and a martial artist, he could not bear to see millions of people being destroyed by the beast tide. So Yi Fei decided to take action. Hearing Yi Fei's words, the generals present were all refreshed. If the North Sea Sword King takes action, he might really be able to deal with Duan Lang. In this way, we can be free to deal with the next beast tide. Chapter 531. The Great War is about to begin. Men, invite the North Sea Sword King to rest in the guest room. This king will apologize later. The Western Heaven King's words were very rude, and he directly drove Yi Fei out. Yi Fei was very depressed. Who did I offend? This West Heaven King is really ruthless. He doesn't even know how to be polite. Unfortunately, the army and the vicious beasts gathered outside the West Heaven City, so he couldn't go out. Yi Fei could only stay in the West Heaven Mansion under the invitation or surveillance of the West Heaven King's sons. Yi Fei knew that the West Heaven King would never allow him to go abroad for experience unless he was sure that it was safe outside the city. Although he knew that the West Heaven King was being kind, Yi Fei was still speechless. The West Heaven King obviously looked down on him and thought that he was no match for Duan Lang. In the White Tiger Hall, many generals were also surprised by the West Heaven King's decision. The one-armed old general said in a booming voice, "Your Highness, what do you mean? The North Sea Sword King is the #1 young master of our Beiyang Kingdom. Why do you refuse him to fight?" "Humph, what do you know? Yes, Yi Fei is strong, But don't forget that he is only in the 8th realm of the Martial King realm. Duan Lang is in the 10th realm of the Martial King realm. If Yi Fei wins, the Golden Palace King may kill him. If he loses, he will die. Remember, our West Heaven King army, including all my sons, can die in battle except for Yi Fei. He is the king and the hope of our entire Beiyang kingdom. The West Heaven King stood up from his throne. His eyes flashed with determination and a gloomy ferocity. Golden Tribe King, you'd better not force me. If worse comes to worst, I'll die with you. In the West Heaven City, many people were still immersed in the grief of General Wang's death. Outside the city, the Beiyuan Kingdom's military camp was bustling with noise and excitement. Countless generals of the Northern Yuan Kingdom raised their wine cups, revealing charming smiles as they did their best to curry favor with the black-clothed youth who was sitting at the front. This young man was Duan Lang. He was the most outstanding descendant of the Duan family of Beiyuan State. Although he wasn't as outstanding as Beiyuan State's Crown Prince Song Yu, he could still contend against Lin Tianjiao. However, with Duan Lang's strength, he was definitely the #1 person below Song Yu in the Northern Yuan Kingdom. This time, under Song Yu's deliberate concession, Duan Lang had successfully obtained first place on the Northern Yuan Kingdom's Earth roll. It could be said that he was flushed with success. Duan Lang was famous at a young age, but he was not arrogant at all. Instead, he was humble and polite. Even though Duan Lang did it deliberately to get closer to the Golden Tribe King's subordinates, the Golden Tribe King was still very satisfied with this young man. Duan Lang, you have proven your strength in my army. You are indeed worthy of being the second genius of Beiyuan State. How about this? My daughter is of marriageable age. The Golden Tribe King said drunkenly. The golden tent instantly fell silent. Countless young generals stared at Duan Lang with envious eyes. Duan Lang's originally calm face couldn't help but reveal a hint of joy. He didn't know why he wanted to serve under the Golden Tribe King. The Golden Tribe King had a daughter who was as beautiful as a flower and had extraordinary charm. If he could win the Golden Tribe King's favor and take the opportunity to propose marriage, that beauty would be his. He didn't expect that the Golden Tribe King would take the initiative to propose marriage before he even asked. Duan Lang's heart was bubbling, but he still maintained a humble expression on his face. Suppressing his joy, he turned around and knelt down before the Golden Tribe King, saying, "Your son-in-law will do as you say." The Golden Tribe King didn't expect Duan Lang to accept the marriage so eagerly. But thinking of his daughter's beauty, the Golden Tribe King was very proud. He laughed and helped Duan Lang up personally, saying, "Duan Lang, don't worry. I am naturally willing to accept you as my son-in-law, but the key is my daughter. You have to win her favor." "Then what should I do to win the princess's favor?" Duan Lang held back his joy and continued to ask. "It's very simple. We grassland men value military achievements. Tomorrow, I will send an ultimatum to the West Heaven King. Then, you can continue to challenge his 10th level expert. The more you kill, the better. As long as you can completely destroy the morale of the West King army, I will marry my daughter to you." A glint flashed across the Golden Tribe King's eyes. Duan Lang certainly knew that the Golden Tribe King was using him, but he didn't refuse. Instead, he said proudly with disdain, "Your Majesty, please rest assured. The Beiyang Kingdom is just a bunch of weaklings. As long as I, Duan Lang, take action, I will kill every 10th level martial king that comes." "Young Master Duan, you have to be careful. You have already killed more than 20 10th level martial kings in the Beiyang Kingdom, especially the old General Wang who died yesterday. His son, daughter, and son-in-law all died in the battle against the Beast Tide. He was very prestigious. If you kill him, the West King army must be very angry." An old general reminded him. "Humph, he is just an old man. So what if he is dead? No matter how angry the West King army is, they can't find an opponent who can match me." Duan Lang didn't like to hear such words. The Golden Tribe King suddenly thought of something and said with a serious look, "Speaking of the Beiyang Kingdom, I remember. It is said that the first place on the Earth list in the Beiyang Kingdom was taken away by a guy from the North Sea. He was even given the title of Sword King of the North Sea by the King of the Beiyang Kingdom." Sword King of the North Sea? Duan Lang suddenly felt uncomfortable. Why? He was first on the Earth list in the Beiyuan Kingdom, but he wasn't given the title of king. How could a guy from a small place like the North Sea be given the title of king? Duan Lang's voice suddenly became cold. He said in a low voice, "Sword King of the North Sea? What a joke! If he were here, I, Duan Lang, could crush him to death with a single hand." "Good, General Duan is indeed mighty. You are worthy of being my son-in-law." The Golden Tribe King was very happy. Seeing Duan Lang so confident, he ordered his men to send out the letter of challenge that he had prepared long ago. After killing more than 20 10th-level Martial Kings of the West King Army, the morale of the West King Army must have hit rock bottom. It is time to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of the old rival, the West King Army. The Golden Tribe King drank as his eyes were filled with murderous intent. The generals around him, including Duan Lang, all had ferocious green eyes, like a pack of wolves. Report. The Golden Tribe King sent a letter of challenge. He said that the West King Army must fight tomorrow. Otherwise, they will break our mountain defense line. In the West King Mansion, the spies brought an urgent report, which angered the West King and all the generals. Dealing with the Beast Tide was not only a big deal for the entire human tribe. For this reason, the Northern Ocean Monarch had sent millions of soldiers to form two lines of defense. 300,000 of them were distributed in various cities as guards, while the remaining 500,000 were concentrated in the Western Heavenly King City as the main force to resist the ferocious beasts. The remaining 200,000 were stationed at the edge of the mountain range closest to the vicious beast. They built various forts and walls and fought day and night. The 4 heavenly kings had sons, daughters, and nephews who had died in such places. Most importantly, this line of defense was set up to deal with the vicious beast. It did not affect the outside but not the inside. Chapter 532. Facing Death with Equanimity. The Golden Palace King is so cruel. West Heaven King, we can't bear it anymore. Let's fight them. Yes, let's fight. We'd rather die in battle than be humiliated. Please allow us to fight, Heavenly King. In the face of the agitated generals, the West Heaven King smiled bitterly. He knew that he could no longer suppress them. Not to mention the generals, even he himself was furious. Golden Palace King, you forced me to do this. Tomorrow I will fight you to the death. But before that I must protect Yi Fei. As the West Heaven King spoke, he soon came to the courtyard where Yi Fei lived. He made a series of seals with his fingers, and a huge formation had trapped Yi Fei in it. Yi Fei, don't blame me. You are the hope of the monarch. Even if we all die in battle, you must not die. After the West Heaven King finished speaking, he turned and left without looking back. Behind him were all his sons and daughters. But except for providing protection for Yi Fei, the West Heaven King did not provide any protection for his children. Their lives were the same as the soldiers. In the room, Yi Fei felt the powerful formation that enveloped the whole courtyard. He slowly opened his eyes and sighed helplessly. Although the West Heaven King's action was superfluous, I still owe him a favor. Originally, Yi Fei was afraid of the West Heaven King's ruthlessness. But after coming into contact with the West Heaven King, he knew that it was the West Heaven King's ruthlessness that protected the border of Beiyang Kingdom and the lives of 3 million people behind the West Heaven City. At this time, the West Heaven King did not even care about his own sons and daughters. He only wanted to protect Yi Fei. This friendship, how could Yi Fei ignore it? Well, since the West Heaven King is not optimistic about me and thinks that I can't defeat Duan Lang, then it's useless for me to say more now. I'd better sneak into the army and act according to the circumstances. As for the formation that the West Heaven King used to trap him, Yi Fei smiled. Not long after the West Heaven King left the West Heaven City with his army, Yi Fei did not have to hide and took out the Phoenix Blood Sword on the spot. Reporting to your Majesty, the Western Sky King's army has left the city. They are currently 3,000 miles away from our camp. The spy from Beiyuan Kingdom immediately reported the situation of the Western Sky King's army. The generals of Beiyuan country hurriedly asked, "How many troops?" "Estimated at 300,000. The spy insisted. Hearing that the West Heaven King only brought 300,000 troops, the Golden Tribe King and the others all laughed wildly. "Ha ha, it seems that the Beast Tide this time has put a lot of pressure on Beiyang. The Western Sky King, who has always been ruthless, actually dared to come and fight with only 300,000 troops." What are you waiting for? My evil wolf cavalry has a total of 500,000. Sieging cities might not be our forte, but when it comes to direct combat, pass down my order. Let's move out and kill the West King army. Rumble! The horse hooves were like thunder, causing the ground to shake intensely. The 500,000 evil wolf cavalry were like a huge black cloud, charging over from the end of the grassland like a tide. Draw the bow and knock the arrow. Bring up the fire god cannons too. Although he was at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, the Western Sky King was still calm. Under the influence of the commander, the 300,000 soldiers of the West King army lined up orderly, forming a square formation in the wilderness. Boom! The horse hooves on the opposite side also stopped moving at the same time under the command of the Golden Tribe King. They were as fast as the wind and as motionless as mountains. This was the evil wolf cavalry of Beiyuan country. The two armies faced each other from a distance of 10,000 meters in the wilderness. Shocking momentum erupted from both sides' military formations. The Golden Tribe King and the Western Sky King looked at each other from a distance. A cold light burst out from their eyes. But the first one to come out was not the West Heavenly King, nor the Golden Tribe King, but a young man in black robes. Duan Lang. Many generals around the Western Sky King were in an uproar. They were all too familiar with this figure. It was him. In half a year, he had killed more than 20 10th-level Martial Kings of the West King Army. This had greatly damaged the morale of the West King Army. He had also caused great casualties among the human martial artists who were resisting the vicious beast. Now that Duan Lang had appeared again, an impulsive Martial King of the West King Army shouted at the top of his lungs, "Duan Lang, are you here to challenge us again?" "That's right. West King Army, who are you today? Come out and die." Duan Lang's eyes were full of contempt. He was facing 300,000 soldiers alone. He pointed his thumb at the ground without mercy. This scene was like an invisible slap to the face of the West King Army. Many of the Martial King generals were enraged. "Duan Lang, let me challenge you!" An old general roared and rushed out of the military formation. He was also a 10th-level Martial King. In the West King Army, he was highly respected. When he saw that it was this old general who had rushed out, even the Western Sky King's face changed. "Oh no, it's Elder Zheng. Didn't I tell him not to go to the battlefield? Elder Zheng, back off. I'll take your place." A middle-aged 10th-level Martial King roared and rushed out, wanting to take Elder Zheng's place. "It's too late. Since you dare to accept my challenge, you useless old man, you should be prepared to die." Duan Lang sneered and attacked. Although he knew that he was no match for a genius like Duan Lang, Elder Zheng still laughed heartily and said, "So what if I'm useless? I've guarded the border and killed 100,000 beasts. Even if I die in battle, I won't be able to face my ancestors and the people behind me. I can die, but the dignity of the West King army will not be insulted by you. Kill. Elder Zheng gathered his genuine qi and pounced on Duan Lang like an old and violent lion. Duan Lang sneered coldly. Duan Lang's rock-like palms were like meteorite. They continuously hit Elder Zheng's body. In front of 300,000 soldiers, Elder Zheng was smashed into pieces. Elder Zheng. The middle-aged martial king rushed to the battlefield. Unfortunately, he was too late. He was only carrying the broken body of the old general. Since you dare to appear on the battlefield, you should die too. Duan Lang did not stop. Just as the middle-aged martial king was carrying the old general's body, Duan Lang chopped off his head like a knife. Then, Duan Lang stomped on the ground and provoked the West King army coldly. Do you see? This is the consequence of going against me. Who dares to come out and die? Or is it that the West King army is born to be a group of cowards? Duan Lang was very proud of himself. When he went out to fight, the Golden Palace King had told him to use the most ruthless means to provoke the West King army and destroy their morale. Now, it seemed that he had done it. The beautiful daughter of the Golden Palace King would definitely belong to Duan Lang. Just as Duan Lang was feeling pleased with himself, the many martial kings in the silent Western King army suddenly shouted, "Duan Lang, don't be so arrogant. We can die in battle, but the dignity of the Western King army will not be trampled on by someone like you. I'll fight you." "Me too. Duan Lang, I want to fight you to the death." Back then, in order to protect the women and children of the people, old General Zheng led his entire family of more than 300 people to fight the ferocious beasts for 10 days and 10 nights. In the end, the entire family died, leaving only the old general. How could you do that? Even if this old man dies today, I will avenge the old general. Chapter 533. Fighting a Genius in Fury Crazy. All the martial kings of the Western King army went crazy. "Elder Zheng, why do you have to do this?" The Western King's gloomy eyes were filled with tears. Others might not know, but he knew clearly that the old general was courting death. This old general is so unyielding. For the glory of the Western King army and to stimulate the low morale, he is willing to sacrifice his own life. Yi Fei was not a soldier, so he could not understand this kind of feeling. But he felt suffocated in his heart. Not to mention the generals at the martial king realm. They all went crazy and wanted to die in place of the old general. This scene also shocked the generals of Beiyuan State. What's going on? So many 10th-level martial kings have died. The Western King army should have suffered a great loss and their morale should have plummeted. Why is their morale not plummeting? Instead, it's gradually increasing, a general of the Beiyuan nation said in a panic. The Golden Palace King was also shocked. He looked deeply at the martial kings of the Western King army and said coldly, "Do you think a desperate army will win? Unfortunately, you are facing me, the Golden Palace King, and the invincible genius of Beiyuan State. Duan Lang, kill them ruthlessly for this king. Kill them until they are afraid. The crueler, the better." Haha, father-in-law, don't worry. The people in the Western King army are not useless old men. They are just a bunch of mad dogs who have lost their minds. You mad dog, even if you come together, so what? Go to hell, all of you. Boom. Duan Lang kicked forwards, causing a terrifying gap to appear in the air. The one-armed old general bore the brunt of Duan Lang's attack, and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. He had actually been kicked to death by Duan Lang before being stomped on. The 300,000 soldiers of the Western King army saw this scene at the same time. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and many of them roared in anger. The horrible killing intent formed a hurricane, whistling above the army. A total of thousands of generals knelt down in front of the West Heaven King. They shed tears of blood and roared, "My lord, give the order. We can't let the blood of the 3 old generals and our brothers be shed in vain." The Western King also cried coldly. He looked at the 300,000 soldiers who were in great sorrow, and then at the Golden Palace King who was smirking in the distance. He suddenly sighed. Golden Palace King, you win. You have successfully angered my soldiers, and you have also successfully angered me. Give the order. The Western King with a serious face, the Western Realm King, raised the flag. Yi Fei's heart suddenly trembled. He knew what it meant once the command flag was raised. It would be a war of millions of soldiers. Given the number of people and the number of martial kings in the West King's army, it was possible that the entire army would be wiped out. Of course, it was not a big deal if the Western King army was destroyed. The key was the 3 million people behind. What would happen to them? Had the Western Realm King lost his mind in grief and anger? Yi Fei could not imagine the consequences of the Western King army's destruction. He had no time to think about it. Looking at the martial kings rushing forward, he was also affected. He suddenly felt a kind of sorrow in his heart. The 3 old generals had fought against the vicious beasts for their whole lives. They had protected the people with their own blood and lives. They should not die in such a humiliating way. At least, Yi Fei would not allow it. Let's fight. Although I can't understand this feeling, I can feel the pain and anger in my heart. This emotion can only be appeased with Duan Lang's blood. Boom. Faster than all the martial kings of the Western King army, Yi Fei tore the void apart in rage. He stepped forward and appeared in front of Duan Lang. Heavenly Devil Kill. Yi Fei's fist was filled with killing intent and a hurricane. It smashed forward, causing the void to tremble. The soldiers of the 2 armies also trembled. That was because the unrivaled genius, Duan Lang, was actually forced back by Yi Fei's punch. Although this was due to Duan Lang being distracted by the other martial kings, Yi Fei's performance still shocked countless people. Who is that? He can force Duan Lang to retreat with one punch. LV8 Martial King Realm. How is that possible? He is also a member of the Western King Army. Why hasn't he appeared before? The generals of Beiyuan State looked at Yi Fei in surprise. Many of the soldiers of the Western King Army were also stunned when they saw Yi Fei. Who is he? Bastard! Yi Fei, didn't I warn you that you are not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the Western King Army? Who allowed you to do this? Come back quickly. The Western King could no longer wave the flag in his hand. If he waved the flag, it would immediately lead to a bloody battle between millions of soldiers. In such a battle, even heavenly kings like them might die, not to mention Yi Fei, who was not even a LV10 Martial King Realm expert. Yi Fei? North Sea Sword King? It's the North Sea Sword King, the #1 genius of our Beiyang state. Boom. The 300,000 soldiers of the Western King Army all cheered. Yi Fei had won first place on the Earth board and was conferred the title of North Sea Sword King. He was very famous in the Beiyang state. His appearance also strengthened the shaken morale of the soldiers. North Sea Sword King, come on! Avenge the 3 old generals! The red-eyed martial kings retreated when they saw Yi Fei. They knew that they could no longer interfere. Since Yi Fei appeared on the battlefield, this battle had become the strongest battle between the geniuses of the northern region. Even the Golden Tribe King stopped the restless soldiers and ordered Duan Lang, who was retreating, Duan Lang, do your best to kill the genius of the Beiyang state for me. If you do, I will consider letting you marry my daughter tomorrow. The Golden Tribe King's voice was very tempting. Hearing this temptation, the anger in Yi Fei's heart suddenly erupted like a volcano. The deaths of the 3 old generals were not worth it. They served the country and the people their whole lives. Even their relatives died in the battle with the beast. They lived a life of glory, but you actually killed them just because of power and beauty. Duan Lang, damn you, you deserve to be called a genius. In my eyes, you are worse than a beast. Shut up. Yi Fei, you are just a rural warrior from the North Sea. You are not qualified to criticize me. Duan Lang was furious. Duan Lang was greedy for power and he was fond of beauties. However, it was enough for him to know these things. If Yi Fei were to say these things out in public, it would be a great offense to Duan Lang. North Sea Sword King my ass. Today, I, Duan Lang, will show you, a rural warrior, what a real genius of the northern region is like. Duan Lang was full of murderous intent and his face became extremely ferocious. He moved his feet and suddenly crossed hundreds of meters. His fist appeared in front of Yi Fei. Beast, you are courting death. Yi Fei's face was filled with anger. He also threw a punch at Duan Lang mercilessly. When the two fists collided, Duan Lang's mouth suddenly curled into a sinister smile. Countless dazzling white lights suddenly appeared on his tightly clenched fist, like numerous silver needles standing upright. How dare you compete with me, Duan Lang? Today I will show you, a rural warrior, how powerful I am. Explosive wolf teeth fist. Chapter 534. Beast Mark Inheritance. Just as the wolf head was about to bite down, a dazzling golden light suddenly blossomed from Yi Fei's body. It was as if Yi Fei had donned a golden armor. The heavenly demon kill was pushed to the limit. A ball of dense demonic aura appeared on his fist as he smashed it forward. Boom! The wolf head's fangs were smashed into pieces. Yi Fei's fist collided with Duan Lang's fist once again, producing a crunching sound that made one's teeth ache. This is impossible. Brat, what kind of defense is that? You're actually not afraid of my exploding wolf fang's fist. Die. Heaven-rupturing kick. Duan Lang roared furiously. He was once again pushed back by Yi Fei's fist. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation for Duan Lang. One had to know that he was the number 2 genius of the Beiyuan country, an expert that was infinitely close to becoming an unrivaled martial king. He could not believe that Yi Fei, who was only an 8th-layer martial king, actually possessed the strength of an unrivaled martial king. His kick caused the sky to crack, as if it was missing a piece. It was filled with explosive power. This kick caused many 10th-layer martial kings to feel astonished. This was the terror of a genius. Just now they had personally witnessed a 10th-layer martial king with one arm being kicked to death. The same scene appeared in front of Yi Fei again. Yi Fei was instantly enraged. The deaths of the 3 old generals were not worth it. Today, I'll use your head as a sacrifice to their dead souls. Heaven Sealing Sword. He roared furiously and slammed his palm forward. The whistling sword chi was so dazzling that it was impossible to see the sword's trajectory. Finally, it formed a huge sword whirlpool in Yi Fei's palm and slashed forward. Duan Lang was shocked to discover that his leg did not seem to have kicked Yi Fei. Instead, it seemed to have kicked a quagmire. It became difficult for him to move a single step, and his own fighting strength was continuously being weakened. Damn it! What kind of sword technique is this? I, Duan Lang, am a genius. I will not allow myself to lose. Exploding Wolf Fang's fist. The heaven-rupturing kick was blocked. Duan Lang's face was ferocious. Suddenly, he punched again at the same time. A huge white wolf appeared in the sky and opened its bloody mouth again. But this time, it didn't bite Yi Fei. It opened its mouth and spat out balls of white light that exploded in all directions. The space Yi Fei was in was instantly torn apart. No matter how hard the rock was, it would be blown to dust. Oh no! The West King's armies exploding intent. His Highness Sword King's Highness Sword. His Highness King on the ground. Especially the Western Sky King. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating. If Yi Fei couldn't defeat Duan Lang and died in battle, even if he died 10,000 times, he would still be letting down the Northern Ocean King. The Golden Tribe King's expression suddenly changed. He roared, Duan Lang, what are you waiting for? Give it your all. Yi Fei is right behind you. Boom. At the same time, the void behind Duan Lang cracked. What appeared was not Yi Fei, but a dazzling sword radiance. It destroyed everything and slashed toward Duan Lang. Duan Lang roared. His body suddenly expanded. His punches and kicks were filled with an explosive aura as they smashed toward Duan Lang. Yi Fei, you are courting death. How dare you sneak attack me? Today, I will let you know that offending me will bring disaster to your life. Duan Lang was furious. He was almost injured by the sword chi. How could a genius from the northern region be defeated by a rural martial artist? Duan Lang could not forgive himself. Roar! Duan Lang's angry roar resounded in the sky. Sensing Yi Fei's strength, Duan Lang finally began to use his full strength. In front of everyone, Duan Lang's body grew taller and bigger. Steel-like fur appeared on his body, and sharp claws appeared on his hands and feet. Even his face turned into the shape of a werewolf. What a despicable golden tribe king! Yi Fei gritted his teeth as he walked out from the place where the space had exploded. His body was covered in golden light as he walked out. Just now, he had purposely exchanged injuries with Duan Lang. He had used the special ability of the Void Steps to send a ray of sword chi behind Duan Lang in preparation for a sneak attack. But he did not expect the Golden Tribe King to see through it and let Duan Lang successfully dodge it. Yi Fei, who walked out of the chaotic area, also saw Duan Lang's current appearance. Damn, a werewolf. Is this guy a human or a monster? Yi Fei, be careful. Duan Lang has the ancient beast mark inheritance. Once he transforms, his combat strength will be greatly improved. The West Sky King hurriedly transmitted his voice. Since the Golden Tribe King did not follow the rules, he did not need to care. What, Duan Lang, you have the ancient beast mark inheritance? Yi Fei was shocked. That's right. I, Duan Lang, have had the beast mark inheritance since I was young. I am a true genius. Martial artists from the countryside like you are destined to only be able to look up at my glory even if you work hard for your entire life. Duan Lang, who had transformed into a werewolf, was very proud and confident. He wantonly used his strength. His fist smashed into the ground, causing it to explode. Terrifying fist-shaped craters appeared one after another. He kicked towards the sky, causing it to shatter. Huge craters appeared one after another. This was the terror of a beast mark inheritor. Every punch and kick was filled with physical strength comparable to vicious beasts. Under this power, Duan Lang's confidence and fighting spirit were raised to the limit. He looked down at Yi Fei with a look of contempt. Yi Fei, you rural martial artist. Now you know how big the gap is between you and me? After transforming into a werewolf, Duan Lang's combat strength doubled. He thought that no one in the Martial King realm could be his match except for the invincible Martial Kings. At this moment, Duan Lang was not in a hurry to kill Yi Fei. He decided to torture Yi Fei to death and play a game of cat and mouse. Seeing Duan Lang's appearance, Yi Fei also laughed. His eyes were filled with disdain and coldness. Is the beast mark inheritance that great? Duan Lang, open your dog eyes wide and watch carefully. There was no sound. Suddenly, an aura that was even more terrifying than Duan Lang's appeared on Yi Fei's body. It was also more desolate and ancient. Layers of scales formed a battle armor and covered Yi Fei. The million-strong army was in an uproar. Ancient beast mark. The Northern Sea Sword Monarch also has an ancient beast mark. What beast mark is that? Why does it look more noble and magnificent than Duan Lang's? The soldiers of both armies were shocked. On the other hand, Duan Lang was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. He originally wanted to show off in front of Yi Fei and humiliate Yi Fei. In the end, Yi Fei did not humiliate him. Instead, he was the one who suffered a heavy blow. Others might not be able to sense it, but Duan Lang, who also had a beast mark, could clearly sense the terrifying beast mark's aura coming from Yi Fei's body. It was obvious that Yi Fei's beast mark inheritance was definitely of a higher level than his werewolf beast mark. This was something that Duan Lang could not tolerate. Roar! I'm going to tear you apart! Duan Lang pounced towards Yi Fei furiously. His speed was extremely fast, like a flash of white light. Before many people could react, Duan Lang had already arrived in front of Yi Fei. His sharp claws dug into Yi Fei's body fiercely. You're courting death. Yi Fei did not dodge. His eyes flashed with excitement. This was the first time he had encountered a martial artist who also had a beast mark. Chapter 535. Killing a prodigy. At this moment, the battle between the two armies had become the battle between Yi Fei and Duan Lang. This was also the first time the ancient beast seal had displayed its ancient and mysterious power in front of everyone. Duan Lang, who had transformed into a wolf, was as fast as a gust of wind. Ordinary 10th-level martial kings could not even see his figure. They could only see the exploding shadows of his fists in the sky, shattering the void and continuously bombarding Yi Fei's scales. However, Yi Fei did not care at all. The scales on his body were mysterious and noble. His defense was even more shocking than the battle demon golden body. No matter how Duan Lang's fists smashed everywhere, Yi Fei's eyes were fixed on one place. That was the place where Duan Lang was moving. Suddenly, he threw out a punch. This punch was not flashy, but the power it contained shocked Duan Lang. He hurriedly distanced himself from Yi Fei in a panic. He roared angrily and waved his fists and legs, creating a pitch-black shadow of wolf fangs in an attempt to break through Yi Fei's scales. You want to break through my defense? You're still lacking. Yi Fei sneered. He stood where he was and waved his fists continuously, shattering all the flowing lights. You country bumpkin, I will tear you apart. Wolves howl at the moon. Duan Lang's eyes flashed with a cruel light. The shadows of his fists suddenly split in the sky. 1, 10, 100, 1,000. 1,000 werewolves raised their heads at the same time and howled at the sky. They opened their mouths and inhaled, as if they were absorbing the essence of the moon. Then, they lowered their heads and exhaled. 1,000 light pillars shot forward, piercing countless holes in the void like a hornet's nest. Yi Fei did not dare to be negligent. He let out a low roar as a mass of frost energy appeared on his fist. He punched forward. Snowflakes started to fall from the sky. Taking a closer look, those snowflakes were the shadows of Yi Fei's fists. They were swift and fierce, smashing all the light beams that came close to him. However, there were still many beams of light that struck Yi Fei's body. However, Yi Fei's scales were too mysterious. When they sensed the terror of the beams of light, they automatically emitted a cold aura. This cold air was extremely terrifying, just like the cold pond where the flood dragon resided. Suddenly, the ground froze over. The terrifying cold energy of the frost flood dragon appeared on Yi Fei's body and froze the hundreds of lichens in front of him. Boom! Yi Fei punched out again. He punched forward, shattering the void. The frozen werewolves were all smashed into smithereens. Wow! Duan Lang spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. His eyes were filled with anger, embarrassment, and brutality. He was a prodigy, yet he couldn't defeat a country bumpkin. How humiliating was that? Die! Suddenly, Duan Lang rushed to the ground and broke the mountain with his bare hands. Then, he grabbed the mountain that weighed tens of thousands of kilograms and smashed it in front of him. He wanted nothing more than to smash Yi Fei into meat paste. However, the mountain was only halfway through when a terrifying force suddenly blocked it. Yi Fei pushed forward with both hands. Boom! Crack! The mountain that weighed tens of thousands of kilograms shattered. A figure rushed out from the countless shattered rocks at an extremely fast speed. This made Duan Lang's face turn ashen. Clearly, he wasn't a match for Yi Fei in terms of the beast mark inheritance. The only thing that made Duan Lang confident was the speed of the Lekan. Incomplete heaven and incomplete earth. Duan Lang turned into a gust of wind and distanced himself from Yi Fei once again. Seeing that the beast mark inheritance wasn't a match for Yi Fei, Duan Lang finally panicked and was forced to use his strongest killing move. In an instant, he punched with his left hand and kicked with his right leg. His posture was extremely strange, but his strength was terrifying and explosive. With a boom, the world in front of Duan Lang seemed to have turned upside down. An extremely chaotic void storm appeared. Even the scales on his body couldn't withstand the endless tearing force. Yi Fei only felt pain on his body. The scales on his body had already started to shatter, tearing out streaks of blood. He was instantly shocked. You are indeed an elite. You can actually use martial arts while activating the beast mark. I wonder if I can do the same. Feeling the increasingly terrifying void storm around him, Yi Fei suddenly had an idea. He suddenly condensed a sword finger and pointed it in front of him. Sky Destroyer's sword, sky burying style. Boom! The resplendent sword light lit up the world. Even the void storm seemed to have frozen at this moment, becoming motionless. Taking advantage of this gap, Yi Fei took a step forward and suddenly used the Great Void Step. With a step, he left the area of destruction and appeared 10 steps away from Duan Lang. This is impossible. Duan Lang was almost scared out of his wits. Using martial arts while activating the beast mark was Duan Lang's trademark. It was unique. However, his uniqueness had been easily broken by Yi Fei. For a moment, Duan Lang looked at Yi Fei with eyes full of jealousy and fear. Yi Fei, just you wait. I, Duan Lang, will never let you off. Duan Lang looked at Yi Fei with hatred. Suddenly, he turned around and fled. His face was full of humiliation and rage. He was the elite of the North region. How could he be defeated by a rural warrior from the North Sea? Duan Lang could already imagine how he would become a laughingstock when the news spread. However, Duan Lang still turned around and fled without hesitation. He was extremely decisive. Compared to being ridiculed, it was better than being completely defeated by Yi Fei. Duan Lang's actions caused an uproar among the soldiers of both armies. Duan Lang was defeated. He was defeated by the Sword Monarch of the North Sea. The soldiers of the Beiyuan nation could not believe that Duan Lang would choose to flee on the battlefield. Long live the Sword Monarch! Beiyang nation will win. The soldiers of the West King army cheered wildly. Their morale was greatly boosted. Yi Fei did not care about the cheers. He just stared coldly at Duan Lang's figure and said angrily, "Where do you think you are going? I said that only your blood can pay tribute to the souls of the 3 old generals." Yi Fei tore through the void with his bare hands. Once again, he was 10 steps away from Duan Lang. Feeling the strong killing intent behind him, Duan Lang was extremely terrified. He secretly regretted that he had fought with Yi Fei. He had lost all face as an elite. Duan Lang did not dare to turn around and fight with Yi Fei. He only looked at the Golden Tribe King, who was not far away. "Father-in-law, save me! Junior, you are courting death." The Golden Tribe King was furious. Duan Lang was the second elite of the Beiyuan nation. How could he be killed by a warrior from an enemy nation? Devourer of the Evil Moon. A scimitar appeared in the Golden Tribe King's hand. The rolling saber chi formed a crescent moon and slashed forward. It miraculously bypassed Duan Lang and targeted Yi Fei. Obviously, after seeing how powerful Yi Fei was, the Golden Tribe King not only wanted to save Duan Lang, but he also wanted to take the opportunity to kill Yi Fei. "Golden Tribe King, how dare you? Yi Fei, come back!" Seeing this, the West Sky King was anxious. He rushed over as fast as he could. The Golden Tribe King is indeed despicable. But I will take Duan Lang's life today. Yi Fei's eyes turned cold. He thought of the 3 dead old generals and the more than 20 martial king experts of the Beiyang nation who had been killed by Duan Lang. If he did not kill Duan Lang, how could these dead souls rest in peace? Suddenly, Yi Fei gritted his teeth and shouted with a crazed expression, 3 old generals, you can rest in peace. I will take Duan Lang's life. Chapter 536. Wild Beast Tide. It was an ordinary punch, but in the eyes of the Golden Tribe King and the Western Sky King, Yi Fei's punch was extremely strange and terrifying. Yi Fei's punch had directly penetrated the Golden Tribe King's saber chi and ignored Duan Lang's body protection vital energy. It mercilessly smashed into Duan Lang's body. Ah! The soldiers of the 2 armies only heard Duan Lang scream. In their eyes, the once incomparably powerful genius of the northern region had actually been smashed into pieces and died an unnatural death. Until his death, Duan Lang could not believe that Yi Fei could be so terrifying that he could kill him right under the nose of an invincible martial king. Duan Lang is dead? Our northern plains country's prodigy was killed so easily? Ha ha ha, it's good that he died. Long live the Sword King! Long live the Sword King! The soldiers of Beiyuan State were shocked. Duan Lang's death was a heavy blow to their morale, especially since Yi Fei had killed Duan Lang right in front of the Golden Tribe King. When the Golden Tribe King saw Duan Lang's broken body, he could not believe his eyes. What kind of fist technique was that? It could ignore my attack and kill Duan Lang instantly. However, Duan Lang, your death was worth it. You used your death to create an opportunity for me to kill this person. The Golden Tribe King suddenly raised his eyes and looked coldly at Yi Fei. He was confident that even if Yi Fei risked his life to kill Duan Lang, he would not be able to block his saber chi. In this way, even if Duan Lang died, Yi Fei would be killed by the Golden Tribe King. 1 life for 1 life, the Beiyuan State would not lose out. Yi Fei, dodge! The Western Sky King shouted as he rushed over from afar. In the sky, Yi Fei smiled bitterly. He wanted to dodge, but the killing Emperor Realm empty fist was like this. It could hit the enemy 100% of the time, but it could also make the enemy's attack hit the user 100% of the time. This was originally a suicidal move created by ancient human sages in order to resist the beast race Great Emperor. Just because Yi Fei couldn't dodge, it didn't mean that he would just sit there and wait for his death. Don't forget that he still had the forbidden armor, which could block any attack below Wu Jun's level. As long as he took it out, he could definitely block the Golden Tribe King's attack. But just as Yi Fei decided to take it out, a sudden change occurred. A mysterious mark suddenly appeared on the dead Duan Lang's body. Then, as if attracted by something, the mark suddenly flew towards Yi Fei. It turned into a stream of light and merged with the beast mark on Yi Fei's shoulder. Duan Lang's ancient beast mark was actually absorbed by my beast mark? What's going on? Yi Fei was stunned. Suddenly, he saw Xiao Chao lying on the ground in the beast mark space, gasping for breath. He suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He understood that Xiao Chao had found danger and used some unknown method to take Duan Lang's beast mark and merge it with himself. After all, beast marks were different from martial arts. Martial arts would disappear once the warrior died, but beast marks could exist for a long time and be passed down from generation to generation. After absorbing Duan Lang's Leaken beast mark, Yi Fei immediately felt that the beast mark pattern on his body had become more complicated. Most importantly, he immediately gained a new ability. That was the Leaken's wind-like speed. At this speed, Yi Fei suddenly had a feeling that he might be able to dodge the Golden Tribe King's blade chi. So, Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat and he subconsciously took a step to the side. Whoosh! He moved like the wind. In a flash, Yi Fei had already appeared 100 meters away from his original spot. He narrowly avoided the Golden Tribe King's blade chi. Boom! In the end, the Golden Tribe King's blade chi only shattered the space where Yi Fei was standing. It didn't even leave a scratch on Yi Fei's clothes. Puff! Seeing this result, the Golden Tribe King couldn't help but vomit blood on the spot. How could he forget that Duan Lang was dead but his beast mark was still there? Now, not only was Duan Lang killed by Yi Fei, even Duan Lang's most powerful beast mark inheritance was inexplicably taken away by Yi Fei. The heavy loss of Beiyuan State this time made the Golden Tribe King feel a stab of pain in his heart. The West Heaven King, who was extremely worried just now, was now ecstatic. He didn't expect Yi Fei to have such means. Not only did he kill Duan Lang, but he also took away Duan Lang's most valuable beast mark inheritance. Ha ha ha, good boy, you're really something. No wonder the monarch likes you so much. Yi Fei, run away. You must leave the battlefield as soon as possible. The West Heaven King quickly grabbed Yi Fei and turned to return to the army. Ah, where do you think you're going? This hateful junior killed Duan Lang and took my beast mark. If I don't kill you today, I swear I'm not a man. Pass down my order, charge and kill Yi Fei at all costs. The Golden Tribe King was so angry that he stomped his feet. That was a precious ancient beast mark. He couldn't accept that it was taken away by the genius of the enemy state. The generals of Beiyuan State were also extremely furious. Following the Golden Tribe King's order, more than 100 10th-level martial kings, more than 10,000 martial kings, and 500,000 wolf cavalrymen roared in unison. The horses' hooves rumbled and exploded on the ground. The martial kings were like dark clouds, roaring in the sky. The generals and soldiers of Beiyuan State were so angry that they didn't even care about Duan Lang's body on the ground. The 500,000 iron hooves instantly crushed Duan Lang's body into pieces. Then they formed a terrifying wall of weapons and rushed toward the West Heaven King's army. Shoot the arrows for me, even if the whole army is annihilated. We must protect Yi Fei. Yi Fei, go quickly. Remember, run away immediately. Don't stay on the battlefield. The West Heaven King pushed Yi Fei and rushed forward. Where do you think you're going? Junior, die for me. How dare you kill the genius of our country? I'll tear you to pieces. The Golden Tribe King rushed into the West Heaven King's army formation alone. He stared at Yi Fei fiercely. The West Heaven King also quickly rushed forward and fought with the Golden Tribe King. Although the Golden Tribe King was blocked, the West Heaven King's army had a hard time resisting the ferocious martial kings of Beiyuan State. After all, Duan Lang had killed too many 10th-level martial kings of the West Heaven King's army before his death. The generals of the West Heaven King's army were confident that they could resist the martial kings below the 10th level. But they were powerless against those above the 10th level. Even so, the generals of the West Heaven King's army did not retreat. They were all risking their lives to kill the enemy. Seeing this scene, Yi Fei could not leave alone. Immediately, Yi Fei fixed his eyes on a 10th-level martial king of Beiyuan State and was about to rush over to kill him. At this moment, on the murderous battlefield, almost everyone felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. Roar! Suddenly, the roar of a ferocious beast resounded across the battlefield, causing the entire ground to shake violently. Dark clouds covered the sky, blocking the sunlight. Upon closer look, it was an endless number of vicious beasts. There were more than 100,000 of them. On the ground, tens of thousands of beasts roared. On the broken mountain peak, a coxcomb python with wings appeared silently. Its eyes were like two burning torches. It opened its mouth and sucked. A dozen martial king generals of Beiyuan State were swallowed into its stomach. In front of the army, the ground suddenly cracked and a deep valley appeared. Upon closer look, it was a King Kong the size of a mountain. It grabbed a 100-meter-long stone pillar and smashed it down with all its might. Hundreds of soldiers who were fighting were all smashed into meat paste. Roar! Another thunderous roar exploded in the ears of the martial kings. They did not know when, but a huge lava toad was squatting at the end of the sky. It croaked and its belly bulged like a volcano erupting. Large amounts of lava melted people and horses. The soldiers of the two armies were all shocked. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.